Chapter 69. 5 days had passed. Not only did the holy brilliance sword feel lighter, even her footsteps were lighter. The most valuable thing was the improvement of her magic power. Just as Garamandes said, cultivating in an extreme state had great benefits for the improvement of her mental strength and magic power. Now, the condensed magic power in her chest had shrunk a little and felt more solid. Nian Bing faintly felt that she seemed to have entered the realm of a magic shooter, but she was not sure yet. 15 days after leaving the cave, Nian Bing carried the holy brilliance sword and followed Garamandes with a vigorous figure. She asked doubtfully, "Great Garamandes, we have been walking for half a month. Why do I feel that we should have walked out long ago? Why can't we walk out of the mountain range?" After 15 days of painful training, the originally handsome Nian Bing had become like a savage. The beard on his face covered his handsome face, and his long golden hair was tangled together. However, the muscles on his body were much stronger than before. The dirty front hid his lustrous skin. The biggest change was his pair of deep eyes. They were like the stars in the night sky, shining with a frightening brilliance. His vision had greatly improved, making the whole world clearer. After 15 days of training, the holy brilliance sword could no longer be a burden to him. He could use it in his hand. Although he could not use it as he wished, at least its weight was no longer a threat. Garamandes said matter-of-factly, "Of course we can't walk out, because we have been walking in circles." Nian Bing looked at him dumbfounded and said, "Walking in circles? Are you sick in the head?" No, great Garamandes, what I mean is, aren't you in a hurry to go out and eat delicious food?" The coldness in Garamandes's eyes faded. He said indifferently, "As the saying goes, if a worker wants to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. I will train you better so that you don't go out and embarrass me. In another half a month, we will leave here. However, from now on, the way we walk will change a little. You are now walking for 6 hours and you can rest once. And this is too unfair to you. You've worked too hard. I've decided to change the 6 hours to 2 hours. What do you think? If that's the case, you won't say that I'm unkind, right?" As he spoke, a sinister smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Nian Bing blinked. "Did I hear wrongly? Changing from 3 hours to 2 hours, that's not your style?" Garamandes gently waved the branch in his hand and said, "Of course you didn't hear wrongly. However, I have to add something. Within these 2 hours, you can choose any method to advance." As he spoke, he suddenly slapped Nian Bing lightly with his palm. Nian Bing had already used up all of her magic scrolls, so she had nothing to defend against Garamandes's dragon claws. The scorching heat instantly spread throughout her body, and Nian Bing felt as if there was a huge gate that cut off the connection between her and her magic. However, she was already used to Garamandes's actions. She only looked at him suspiciously, waiting for him to speak. Garamandes chuckled and said, "You can continue to advance. Remember, it's 2 hours. However, this time, I will take good care of you from behind." The branch in his hand danced, and before Nian Bing could react, there was already a mark on his body. The intense pain accompanied by the burning sensation made him jump up. "What are you doing?" Garamandes looked at him maliciously and said, "Nothing much. I'm just helping you train your body. Don't you want to improve your magic? Then you have to train your body for the next half a month. Come on, brat, if you have the ability, then dodge my attack. Of course, you can also use the Holy Radiance Blade to block it. However, you have to be able to block it first. Why aren't you moving? Watch my whip." Nian Bing enjoyed an inhuman life. Under the 2 hours of Fire Dragon King Garamandes's whip, there was almost no place on his body that was intact. Fortunately, Garamandes was still considered to be merciful. He did not harm the sensitive parts of his body. Ling Nian Bing was not used to the sudden change in situation. Fortunately, there was still that stinky thing to eat to recover his strength. After 2 hours, Garamandes would first feed him this thing, then remove the magic seal on his body and let him heal his wounds. After the treatment, he could meditate for an hour. There was a limit to a person's patience. Even Nian Bing, who endured humiliation for the sake of survival, was no exception. On the third day of being whipped, Nian Bing finally could not take it anymore. "Damn it, Garamandes, you bastard! If you hit me again, I'll fight it out with you." Waving the holy radiance blade in his hand, Nian Bing, who was unable to use magic, was about to spit fire from his eyes. The intense pain that came from his body made him feel like he was about to break down. Garamandes waved the branch in his hand. With a smack, another red mark appeared on Nian Bing's body. "I'm whipping you, so what? Do you still want to resist?" Nian Bing's eyes were red. The 20 days of abuse had finally pushed his patience to the brink of collapse. His mind was blank. He only wanted to tear this fire dragon king who had transformed into a human into pieces. His entire body rushed towards Garamandes like a whirlwind. The holy radiance blade in his hand was as nimble as the morning dew in his hand. The disdain in Garamandes' eyes suddenly turned into astonishment. This was because he realized that Nian Bing had changed. Although he did not have fighting aura, the holy radiance blade in his hand had turned into a golden ball of light. Even with Garamandes' eyesight, he could not see any pattern in this golden ball of light. Every strike was as untraceable as an antelope's horn. However, every strike seemed to contain the truth of heaven and earth. It was no longer in the category of a blade. Garamandes actually saw a dragon-shaped airflow in that golden ball of light. A dragon-shaped airflow formed by light element. While he was distracted, the holy radiance blade had already arrived in front of him. Garamandes was shocked to find that not only was he unable to dodge, he did not even know how to block it. Although he had lived for tens of thousands of years, this was the first time he had seen such a mysterious blade technique. Helplessly, a fiery red fighting aura surged out, forming a flame-like protective layer around his body. Since he was unable to dodge or block, he could only rely on his advantage in fighting aura. Although the Fire Dragon King's fighting aura was not golden, it was definitely not inferior to the fighting aura of a god-tier master. The shadows of the blade suddenly changed. The holy radiance blade actually disappeared into thin air in an instant, leaving only 9 angry golden dragons in the air. The golden dragons either pounced, rushed forward, or spat, each of them using different forms to rush towards Garamandes' defense. The most surprising thing was that the golden light of the blade actually directly penetrated the blade. It was an indestructible aura, an aura that made even Garamandes feel apprehensive. He suddenly understood that although Nian Bing didn't have fighting aura, from this moment on, he had grasped the soul of the blade. The holy radiance blade seemed to be held in the hands of its master, the sacred teacher. Although those golden shadows of the blade were not fighting aura, they were the combination of light essence and the soul of the blade itself. Its might was not inferior to that of aura at all. Concentrated sounds of friction were unceasingly heard. Garamandes didn't know how many times Nian Bing's blade had cut his defensive barrier. He could only feel an abnormal surge of light essence unceasingly surging inside, although it couldn't injure him. However, this light essence aura was filled with an indomitable will. If not for the huge difference between the energy impact and his fighting aura, this aura alone would have been enough to seriously injure him. With a cough, the fiery red radiance suddenly expanded, and Nian Bing's body was sent flying, heavily landing 10 meters away along with the holy radiance blade. Although he was dizzy from the fall, his hand was still firmly holding onto the holy radiance blade. That round holy radiance stone emitted a layer of golden radiance that extended to Nian Bing's entire body. Although this fall seemed very heavy, he wasn't injured at all. Nian Bing crawled up from the ground, but didn't launch another attack at Garamandes. Looking at the holy radiance blade in his hand in astonishment, he didn't know what to do for a moment. The holy radiance blade emitted a golden light in all directions, and that transparent feeling seemed to let Nian Bing see the light of dawn. He knew what he had done. That's right, he had just used the Holy Radiance Blade to display the Holy Radiance Blade technique. If it was the Ghost Condor, Nian Bing naturally had the confidence to easily control it. However, the Holy Radiance Blade in his hand just now weighed 128 kilograms. The 4-chi long blade actually displayed the carving blade technique. What was the point of this? Just the flexibility and coordination of his body were far from comparable to before. The moment he displayed the Holy Radiance Blade technique, his body and the blade were completely integrated, and there was no longer any distinction between the two. Naturally, the blade aura on the Holy Radiance Blade was completely composed of pure light essence. Now that his magic was sealed, what was it that activated the Holy Radiance Blade's aura? It was his determination, his indomitable determination, as expected of the peerless treasured blade that had accompanied the sacred teacher for more than 70 years. Holy Radiance, oh Holy Radiance, you've finally fully acknowledged me. Nian Bing's eyes were filled with emotions as he looked at the blade. A layer of hazy mist appeared in his eyes. After 10,000 years, this sacred expert's treasured blade had a new owner. Good blade technique. What's the name of the blade technique? Garamandes's voice sounded. Nian Bing murmured, the Holy Radiance Blade technique. It's a blade technique that my first teacher imparted to me. You might not believe it, but it's used for carving in the culinary arts. To evaluate a person's culinary skills, one has to look at 5 aspects: color, aroma, taste, meaning, and shape. And the Holy Radiance Blade technique is the peak of the word shape. Garamandes, thank you. If not for your coercion, I definitely wouldn't have used the Holy Radiance Blade technique to display the Holy Radiance Blade technique. Thank you? No need, no need. In the future, just make more delicious food for me to eat. I don't have any good intentions. You can hate me as much as you want. However, it seems that revenge won't be easy. Garamandes's voice contained arrogance, as well as some humor. Nian Bing raised her head and looked at him. The two of them looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Nian Bing glanced at the branch in Garamandes's hand. Do you still want to continue? Garamandes shook his head and said, there's no need for that. Unless I use the absolute advantage of fighting spirit, otherwise, I won't be able to beat you with my speed. The training for your body can end early. In the future, when you have time, play with the Holy Radiance Blade more. For a mage like you, this kind of physical condition is enough. We should leave this place. Nian Bing stood up and was about to say something, but Garamandes raised his hand towards her. A deep golden light entered the Holy Radiance Blade. In an instant, the golden light from the blade enveloped Nian Bing's body. Wrapped in the golden light, the wounds on his body quickly healed. Garamandes didn't put down his hand, but the golden light on his hand turned white. Like lightning, he drew a white hexagram and muttered an incantation. His magical power seemed to be limitless, and a 9th-level spell gradually formed. The white light expanded and enveloped Garamandes's body, as well as Nian Bing's body. The white light disappeared in an instant, and the white hexagram turned silver, completely covering their position. The light suddenly disappeared, and the last thing that disappeared in the air was a silver dot. A strange feeling made Nian Bing feel as if he was in another world. But in the next moment, when everything became clear again, he found that the surrounding mountains had disappeared. The piercing cold attacked him, who was not wearing any clothes. His whole body shivered, but the cold of winter didn't make him feel too uncomfortable. In front of him was a river, a wide river. He didn't know where it led, but the surface of the river had already frozen due to the cold of winter. From the warm valley to this ice river, the huge difference made Ling Nian Bing feel very uncomfortable. Just as he was about to ask Garamandes for his space ring so that he could take out some clothes to protect himself from the cold, a huge fireball suddenly flew out from behind him. The same fireball, when used by the Fire Dragon King Garamandes, was definitely not the same. The fireball surged out with an ear-piercing roar, and with a loud bang, the ice on the river surface splashed. Under the influence of the scorching airflow, the river water under the ice surged out like a fountain, and even brought out a few fish that were cooked in an instant. A strong force came from his buttocks, and Yen Bing once again experienced the feeling of riding the clouds. He danced with joy as he crossed a distance of several hundred feet. Before he could do anything else, his body had already fallen into the river with a splash. Garamandes's powerful fireball made the water boil, but the river water was flowing and always moving. When Yen Bing fell into the water, the piercing water immediately made his whole body convulse, and the strong force of the river water carried his body downstream. A red figure appeared on the unbroken ice surface. Garamandes's body emitted a blue light, and the surging river water under the ice suddenly became still. Yen Bing's body was thus able to remain in the ice cave water. When he was learning cooking from Cha Ji, Yen Bing often played in the Azure River, which wasn't very fast, but this didn't mean that he could swim in the ice river. When he came out of the water, he desperately swam to the shore, hoping to get ashore quickly. At this time, he didn't even have time to scold Garamandes. "Brat, do you want to come up? Stop dreaming, first wash your body clean, otherwise don't think of leaving the river." The only thing Garamandes was kind was that when he kicked Yen Bing, he left the holy radiance blade in Yen Bing's hand. Otherwise, Yen Bing would have sunk to the bottom. You lunatic, the river is so cold, do you want me to die?" In the extreme cold, Yen Bing was already somewhat incoherent. Garamandes chuckled and said, "Don't worry with me here, you won't die, even if you want to die. Hurry up and wash, if you don't want to keep soaking in the ice water." The cold seemed to have frozen his blood. Not to mention bathing, even moving his body became a very difficult thing. Just when Yen Bing despaired and thought that he was going to freeze to death here, a strange thing happened. A warm current suddenly came from his lower abdomen, and the warm current instantly filled his chest and abdomen, greatly reducing the cold in his body. When Yen Bing's brain had just cleared up a little, the warm current gradually became stronger, and when he lowered his head to look, he discovered that his skin was actually suffused with a layer of lustrous red light, and his limbs and bones were constantly filled with that scorching aura. At this time, soaking in the ice river was no longer a painful thing, and the cold outside neutralized the warm current in his body, causing Yen Bing to feel exceptionally comfortable. After moving his body in the water, he couldn't help but look at Garamandes on the shore in surprise. "Great Garamandes, what exactly are those stinky things that you gave me to eat?" The changes in his body could only be explained by those things that he had eaten for more than 20 days. Garamandes laughed mischievously. He said, "If I told you that it was my feces, would you believe me?" Yen Bing discovered that no matter how he looked at it, he was always suppressed by Garamandes. A huge dragon that had lived for tens of thousands of years had almost no flaws in intelligence. "Don't worry, even if you want to eat my dragon feces, I can't bear to let you eat it. Hurry up and get rid of it. These days, you have been eating the iron thread snake's gallbladder, which is unique to the Tian Ding mountain range. It is specially used to change the quality of your body. The iron thread snake's natural disposition is cold, but its gallbladder is different from ordinary snake gallbladders. Instead, it is a very hot thing. It is very beneficial to your body. Now, wash in the ice river and get rid of the hot air, then you will be able to completely absorb it. The gallbladder of 100-years-old iron thread snake is not something that ordinary people can eat. You must know that 100-years-old iron thread snake can easily kill several iron northern earth dragons. I caught them while you were meditating." Actually, Yen Bing didn't only eat the gallbladder of 100-years-old iron thread snake. There were even a few that were over 1,000 years old. With such great nourishment, his body's toughness couldn't be compared to a magician, even a warrior couldn't compare. Although he had less scales than a dragon, the strength of his skin and meridians could already be compared to an ordinary huge dragon. This was also the important reason why Nian Bing was later called an unkillable magician. Floating in the river, Nian Bing was somewhat stunned as he looked at the indifferent Garamandes. Thinking back to everything that happened before, from the time they left the cave until now, although he always put her in incomparable pain, everything seemed to be for her own good. Nian Bing was somewhat at a loss. What exactly did this great Garamandes want to do to her? After washing for a full hour, Nian Bing finally completely washed off the dirt that had accumulated for a month. After going ashore, she used the holy radiance knife to shave off the beard on her face. The handsome and confident Nian Bing reappeared. Here. He tossed the spatial ring to Nian Bing and patted him on the shoulder. The magic seal in Nian Bing's body was immediately removed. He changed into a set of dry, coarse clothes and sensed the power of ice and fire in his body. Nian Bing could clearly feel that he was unprecedentedly powerful. The weather is cold, there is a river here, so naturally there are fish. I will help you make some fish soup to drink. After changing clothes, Nian Bing looked at Garamandes and said calmly. Garamandes glanced at her and said, "What, are you trying to bribe me? I know what you're thinking. You don't have to be grateful to me. The reason why I'm helping you increase your strength isn't out of the goodness of my heart. You'll be able to cast magic better if you have more stamina. At the same time, you'll be able to make better food for me. That way you won't be tired. Yes. Although you are not as handsome as me after cleaning, you will still be able to make do." Nian Bing was almost angered to death by Garamandes. It seemed that it was impossible to hear a good word from him. She simply stopped talking and looked at the self-proclaimed Great Fire Dragon King with a gloomy face. "What are you looking at me for? Didn't you want to make me fish soup? I haven't eaten anything you made for almost a month. I am really craving it. Remember to make more, you know my stomach. Great Garamandes, I think, if you are going to die in the future, you will definitely choose to die from eating too much. Greedy dragon." After saying this, he walked towards the shore without saying a word. Garamandes touched his handsome face and said to himself, "Am I being too good to this kid? His chest is getting more and more unbridled. Forget it, who asked him to be so useful? It is only right to treat him a little better." Did he really help Nian Bing increase her strength just for his stomach? As a fire dragon king with tens of thousands of years of wisdom, he had to weigh the pros and cons of everything. As for what he did, only he himself knew. Although Nian Bing insulted Garamandes, she did not slack off in the process of cooking. Relying on the few materials left in the space ring and the extreme freeze spell from the frozen river, she caught a few fish with her increasingly nimble control of magic, and made a perfect Icefire octopole fresh. Wow, so fish soup can also be so delicious. Not bad at all. Garamandes drank a mouthful of hot soup. He only felt that his dragon body was refreshed and praised Nian Bing's cooking. Nian Bing did not stay idle either. She seemed to be venting all her dissatisfaction with Garamandes on the food, eating the delicious food she made. In the cold winter, eating fresh fish in addition to the delicious fish soup and supplementary ingredients, the taste was indeed the best in the world. Her tense nerves these days were very well relieved by her first-rate cooking. "Nian Bing, we are now out of the sky-shaking mountain range. We are 20 kilometers away from the sky-shaking city. Where are we going? Where is there good food to eat?" Holding the iron pot, Garamandes asked after drinking the last mouthful of fish soup without any table manners. Hearing his question, Nian Bing became spirited, all kinds of thoughts flashing through his mind. Ever since he found out that Garamandes was not much of a threat to him, his heart had already become lively. It was very clear that this great fire dragon king was using him, whether it was using his cooking skills or other things. To get rid of a dragon, it would not be that easy. Since that was the case, he might as well use him instead. Having a dragon by his side was not necessarily a bad thing. Thinking of this, Nian Bing said, "Great Garamandes, there are 5 great empires on the Yangon continent. The most prosperous are the capitals of the 5 empires, and the closest one to us is the Ottoman Empire's capital, Aulin City. I have never been there before, but I think that there must be good food in a prosperous place. Let's go to Aulin City. Garamandes did not disappoint Nian Bing. He placed the iron pot to the side and nodded, saying, "All right, let's go to Aulin City. Your human world is changing too quickly. I remember a few hundred years ago when I came out to play, the 5 great empires were not like this. You are more familiar with it than me, so I will let you arrange the journey for us to eat all kinds of delicacies." Nian Bing smiled and said, "Don't worry, I will make the best arrangements so that your trip will not be in vain." Garamandes did not seem to understand the deeper meaning behind Nian Bing's words. He laughed and said, "All right, since we are going to your human world, you don't have to call me great anymore. Just call me by my name. This is the first time I have given this privilege to a human. You will follow me in the future. Maybe one day when I am happy, I will give you more benefits." Nian Bing said, "Garamandes, you also know that my ice and fire homology has improved a lot with your help. I also feel that my understanding of ice and fire magic has deepened. Can I learn your mimicry skill now?" Garamandes snorted in disdain and said, "It is still too early for you. If you want to learn my mimicry skill, you have to at least wait until you can change from ice to fire, then from fire to ice. What you understand now is only the surface of the magic element. Every magic element has different characteristics. You already have 4 ready-made blades. When you have nothing to do, you have to feel the inherent characteristics of wind and light magic elements. Only then will you be able to practice mimicry. At the same time, mimicry requires a large amount of magic power to support it. Especially during the process of mutual conversion, if you don't have enough understanding of magic elements, using mimicry will not only not give you more power, but will instead consume your magic power several times over. Without powerful magic power, you don't even have the qualifications to practice mimicry. Looking at your current situation, you can only be regarded as barely entering the realm of what you humans call a high mage. High mages are different from each other. Can you use magic of the 9th step now? When can you use magic of the 9th step? You will have the qualifications to practice mimicry by relying on the ice and fire homology. I have to reach the level of being able to practice magic of the 9th step? Nian Bing's voice revealed a trace of disappointment. Garamandes laughed mischievously and said, "Of course, this is not absolute. If there is external help, and the conditions are lower, you can also use it. It's just that this external help is not so easy to obtain." Nian Bing looked at Garamandes' unfathomable appearance, and hurriedly smiled apologetically, and said, "Of course, how can we humans learn mimicry so easily? Great Garamandes, what is the shortcut? Can you tell me?" Garamandes snorted and said, "It's no big deal to tell you. In fact, it's very easy. As long as your magic power is a bit stronger and stabilizes in the realm of high mages, you can start to try it. This so-called shortcut is to rely on some special items to give you a basis to use when using mimicry. Of course, these special items must have an extremely pure magic element. Kid, you can be considered lucky. You already have 4 of them. Didn't I just say that in a few days you can start to try to feel the 2 elements of light and wind?" Nian Bing's eyes lit up and said, "You mean to say that the gem attached to my magic blade can help me complete the mimicry ability?" Garamandes said, "Of course, do you think that the word's best quality in those gems are just for show? As long as you can fully exploit the energy in any piece of the best quality gem, it can make a qualitative improvement in your magic. It's just that your current magic power is still too weak, and you can't really trigger its essence. But with the Holy Radiance Blade and your so-called Proud Heaven Blade as a guide, and with the same origin of ice and fire as the foundation, you can start to try to practice mimicry." Nian Bing thought for a moment and said, Then, if I can have the 3 best quality magic blades of darkness, space, and earth, I can practice mimicry with the strength of a high mage. Garamandes nodded and said, in theory, it's like this. Although it's not a true mimicry of your own ability, if you can use external items to practice mimicry, it will make it much easier for you to truly master it. However, do you think that it's so easy to obtain a best quality magic blade? Unless it's a coincidence, you might not be able to find one even if you spend your entire life searching. Nian Bing smiled. It's okay, I'm not in a hurry. I still have time, and it's always good to have a goal. Great Garamandes, you're full now. Shouldn't we be on our way to Allen City? Garamandes rolled his eyes and said, who said I'm full? We should have at least 3 more bowls of fish soup like just now. Nian Bing. Chapter 70. Setting foot on the road to Allen City, Garamandes didn't make things difficult for Nian Bing anymore. The human and dragon walked slowly on the road like friends. Garamandes didn't have the concept of time at all. Having lived for tens of thousands of years, he knew how to enjoy life very well. Nian Bing originally wanted to use magic to hasten the journey, but was stopped by Garamandes, saying that it would be better to experience the beauty of the human world by walking. It was equivalent to the end of the month. The weather of March brought with it a trace of warmth. After a few months of rest, the Ottoman Empire, which had suffered great losses due to the war, was in the midst of recovering. At least, that was the case on the surface. Nian Bing, how much longer until we reach Allen City? Garamandes looked at the buds on the trees on both sides of the road as he asked. Nian Bing smiled and said, I just looked at the map. At our current speed, we will reach it in 3 days at most. Garamandes said excitedly, that means that I will have good food to eat soon? Nian Bing smiled bitterly and said, Great Garamandes, haven't you eaten enough along the way? Not to mention the cities, even if we passed by a small village, you would have to eat for a few days before continuing on the road. Along the way, he was more and more convinced that Garamandes was helping him improve his physical abilities so that he could cook better. As long as they reached a place where they could buy food, Garamandes would have to stop and let Nian Bing cook for him for a few days. Although it was very useful for training his culinary skills, Nian Bing was now more and more worried. At this speed, she wouldn't be able to make it to the Huarong Empire in time to participate in the new magician competition after delivering the letter to Allen City. However, what made him feel gratified was that ever since he left the Fire Dragon Cave, his body had improved tremendously. Just the improvement of his magic had made him wild with joy. The cultivation of magic power required time, but he had already gained a lot of experience in the control of magic, as well as the use of mimicry magic. It wasn't a bad thing that Garamandes was delicious. Every time Nian Bing encountered a difficult problem, as long as she cooked for him wholeheartedly, she would definitely be able to get some information from him. For Nian Bing. Right now, Garamandes was a moving magic treasure trove. Garamandes snorted and said, Don't forget how big my real body is. Of course I have to eat more to maintain my good figure. Why? Is there anything you're not satisfied with? Nian Bing said grumpily, There's nothing I'm not satisfied with. It's just that you, who have so many treasures, have been eating this insignificant human's money. My savings are already gone, so shouldn't you take out some money to continue our meal? Yeah, stinky brat, do you still want to eat the great Garamandes? I don't have any money, I didn't even bring a single gold coin. Didn't you say that you can sell magic scrolls for money? When we reach Allen City, you can just change some. Nian Bing said with a bitter face, That can only be exchanged with magic scrolls. I have already used up all my scrolls in the sky-shaking mountain range, and all my money has been eaten by you. I can't even buy a blank scroll. How do you want me to sell them? Garamandes smiled like a child. Revealing his white teeth, he said, That's your problem, what does it have to do with me? Anyway, when we don't get to eat good food, you just have to be careful. I don't mind doing the training I gave you in the sky-shaking mountain range a few more times. Anyway, I have plenty of time to play with you. You. Looking at Garamandes' roguish appearance, Nian Bing really couldn't do anything to him. Meeting such a big shot, she could only endure. Just as they were walking, the sound of wheels grinding against the ground came from the front, the sound going from soft to clear. Nian Bing raised her head and saw that a caravan was coming towards her and Garamandes. At the front of the caravan was the most popular part of the continent, mercenaries. More than 10 mercenaries were guarding the carriage at the front. The carriage looked very ordinary from the outside, but there were actually more than 100 mercenaries guarding it. From the looks of these mercenaries, their abilities shouldn't be bad, they were at least high-level warriors. It seemed that this caravan was very profitable. Hey, Nian Bing, this is your human caravan, right? Garamandes saw what Nian Bing noticed. Nian Bing nodded. It should be, otherwise there wouldn't be so many mercenaries. Garamandes laughed mischievously. The problem is solved, aren't you poor? This caravan has so many people, there must be a lot of valuable things. If you rob them, won't we have enough food expenses? Nian Bing opened her eyes wide, looking at Garamandes, who was speaking in a relaxed tone, her voice raised a bit. You want me to rob them? Garamandes said, as if it was a matter of course, if you don't have money, just rob them. In any case, money is spent in their hands, and it's also spent in our hands. Go quickly, as long as you rob enough money, I will tell you about the question you asked yesterday regarding the light element. How about it? This condition isn't bad, right? Nian Bing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But, great Garamandes, I am a chef or a magician. You want me to be a robber in broad daylight? I'm afraid it's not appropriate, right? If I encounter the soldiers of the Ottoman Empire, even if I jump into the Azure River, I won't be able to clear my name. We are now within the borders of the Ottoman Empire, and will become street rats in the future. How can we eat good food? Garamandes snorted. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Don't talk to me about benefits and benefits, it has nothing to do with me. I only know that money can be used to buy food. Go quickly, otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Don't forget, I can take your little life at any time. Although Nian Bing understood that Garamandes couldn't bear to kill her, she understood even more clearly that if she didn't follow Garamandes' wishes, her future days wouldn't be good. Sighing helplessly, taking advantage of the fact that the caravan hadn't noticed the two of them, she hurriedly took out the mage's outfit from her spatial ring and put it on herself. Wearing the mask, she finally felt a bit better. Looking at Nian Bing's outfit, Garamandes laughed heartily. Why do you look like a clown? Go quickly, I will wait for you here. Look, what are you looking at? Don't tell me you think that the noble and great Garamandes would do such a shameless act of robbery? Speechless. You can't be shameless, so you want me to be shameless, what kind of logic is this? Oh right, there is no logic to speak to him. Too lazy to say anything more, Nian Bing cast a blizzard spell on herself. Now that she didn't have the protection of a magic scroll, she naturally had to be more careful in all aspects. The caravan and Nian Bing were getting closer and closer. Nian Bing walked in the middle of the road, blocking the caravan's path. Garamandes had already gone to the side of the road to rest and watch the show. The mercenaries naturally noticed this uninvited guest. They all took out their weapons. But after all, Nian Bing was only one person, so they weren't too nervous. 3 of the mercenaries at the front suddenly sped up and rushed towards Nian Bing. In the blink of an eye, they were already in front of her. One of the mercenaries was tall and looked to be in his 40s. Wearing the mercenary's standard leather armor, he looked very imposing. His bald head shone under the sunlight, his appearance was rough, and one could tell at a glance that he was a forthright person. Friend, we want to go through this road, please make way. He very politely said to Nian Bing. After all, mercenaries were on a mission, no one wanted to cause trouble. Nian Bing sighed in her heart. She deliberately made her voice hoarse. Stop talking nonsense, just give me some money and I will let you pass. I am here to rob. This was the first time she did this kind of thing, so she could only say this kind of opening words. The 3 mercenaries opposite her were veterans in the mercenary industry. As soon as they heard Nian Bing's words, they knew that they had encountered a rookie robber. The 2 mercenaries next to them were about to attack, but they were stopped by the mercenary who spoke before. The previous mercenary held up his shiny bald head and casually said to Nian Bing, "This brother, at home you rely on your parents, but when you go out you rely on your friends. Our Blade King mercenary group has made friends with you. Everyone calls me Wanderer, and people give me the nickname Gilded Knife. Take this money." As he said that, he took out a dirty money bag from his chest and threw it to Nian Bing. Nian Bing took the money bag and opened it. She was surprised to find that there were more than 10 gold coins in the bag. She couldn't help but have some doubts in her heart. Was it so easy to be a robber now? She could get money just by saying a few words. This was too easy. Although she thought so in her heart, she felt that it was also good. This way she didn't have to force herself to be a robber. When she was about to open the way, she heard Garamandes's voice. "Too little, it is not enough for me to eat my fill. Their caravan is so big, this little money is not enough. Do as you see fit." Although she didn't know where the voice came from, Nian Bing was sure that only she could hear it. Nian Bing cursed Garamandes's 18 generations of ancestors in her heart, but she couldn't resist. She could only brace herself and say, "Although Brother Wanderer is generous, but this money is not enough to buy the way." Wanderer frowned slightly. The reason why he chose to use money to buy the way was mainly because of Nian Bing's looming aura. Although he looked rough, his mind was very meticulous. He didn't want to make more enemies. At this time, seeing that the other side had accepted his money, but still didn't have the intention to let the caravan go, Wanderer couldn't help but secretly scold the rookie in front of him for not being sensible. He said indifferently, "So, you don't intend to let us go?" At this point, Nian Bing didn't have the idea of being lucky. She said coldly, 1,000 gold coins and I will let you go. Think about it carefully." As he said that, he didn't recite the incantation. His right hand pressed to the side of the road. A red and blue airflow floated out. The difference between the colors of the airflow was not very obvious. Just when the 3 mercenaries were stunned, a loud bang sounded. The red and blue light instantly condensed into a ball of light on the side of the road. There was a violent explosion on the ground. 3 big trees were uprooted, and a large pit with a diameter of nearly 10 feet appeared. Although it was a little shallow, the power was still good. Some of the fallen branches on the ground were turned into charcoal, while others were sealed with frost. Nian Bing was slightly proud. The leap of the ice and fire source made it so that he didn't have to separately cast different spells from his hands and then collide with each other to display the power of the ice and fire source. He directly mixed the ice and fire source magic and output it without chanting the incantation. Coupled with the effect of the camouflage spell, he now didn't even need to chant the second step of the ice and fire source magic. Now, Nian Bing was a little suspicious. It seemed that she didn't seem like a magician, but more like a warrior. Something unexpected happened. Nian Bing's powerful attack didn't make the 3 knights change their expressions, especially the gold-plated sword in the middle. He still had a calm expression on his face. He sat on the back of the horse and looked at Nian Bing said with a smile that wasn't a smile, "Are you done with your performance? This is the blazing ice palm, right? I haven't seen this kind of fighting aura for many years. Good, good, good. It seems that you are worthy of me relaxing my muscles." With a push of his hand on the saddle, his tall body leaped into the air and landed in front of Nian Bing. The other 2 knights looked like they were watching a good show as they looked at Nian Bing with relaxed expressions. Now that they were close, Nian Bing carefully sized up the mercenary in front of him. Vagrant was taller than him by half a head, and his shoulders were extremely broad. At this time, he had already taken a huge machete from his back. Nian was surprised to find that this machete was exactly the same size and style as his holy glory. The machete in Vagrant's hand was as light as a feather. Vagrant raised the machete and pointed it at Nian. "Kid, come. Let's see if you are worth 1,000 gold coins." Ling Nianbing's heart tightened when he saw the other party's calm and relaxed attitude. He wasn't a careless person. He put his hands together and separated them. The sigh of the ice goddess and the roar of the fire god were in his hands. Two different auras of ice and fire pervaded his body. Vagrant smiled, revealing his big front teeth. "Not bad, good machete. It suits your blazing ice dochi very well. Come, let me see to what extent your blazing ice dochi has been trained." Nian was speechless in his heart. The other party actually thought that he was a warrior. However, this was also good. The other party's misjudgment would bring more opportunities for him. The tip of his foot lightly touched the ground, and his body floated backwards. Due to his understanding of the ice element, the blizzard he used was already in an invisible state. Unless someone was beside him and felt the rapidly rotating do-chi, no one would be able to discover that he had cast a blizzard spell on himself. Vagrant's expression suddenly changed. His right foot suddenly took a step forward, and he changed to holding his machete with both hands. With a loud shout like a thunderclap in the air, the huge machete in the shape of holy glory chopped out like lightning. A faint golden light formed an arc of light and went straight for Nian. The reason why he looked down on Nian was actually because he recognized the blazing ice do-chi. This kind of do-chi really did exist, although it was very overbearing, but because of the conflict between ice and fire, it was very difficult to train to a higher level. Therefore, he had nothing to fear. Seeing the faint golden machete, Nian was shocked. He had never thought that this seemingly reckless mercenary in front of him would actually be a knight of light. Light magic was a rare type of magic among the many types of magic. That was the privilege of the church's priests. And the light do-chi was even rarer than the well of darkness. Not only because it was extremely difficult to train, but also because the restriction of the light do-chi was too great. In order to train in the light do-chi, the most basic requirement was to have a body of light. Just this point alone was already very rare among ordinary people. Moreover, this was not the key point. If one only had a body of light, it would be very difficult to train in the light do-chi, and the speed of improvement would only be 1/5 of the normal do-chi. Therefore, in order to have some achievements in the light do-chi, one must obtain the approval of the light do-chi. This was not something that ordinary people could do, because the prerequisite for obtaining the approval of the light do-chi was to have a magnanimous heart, to do things in an open and above-board manner. As long as there was a trace of dirty thoughts in one's heart, one would not be able to obtain the approval of the light do-chi. Once these two conditions were met, one could start to train in the light do-chi. However, if a warrior who trained in the light do-chi had darkness in his heart, the light do-chi would not hesitate to abandon him. Without the support of the light do-chi, the power of the light do-chi would be greatly weakened. This was the only restriction of the do-chi. Therefore, choosing to train in the light do-chi not only required one to be extremely talented, but also to have a near-perfect state of mind. In the Yangon Dafa, anyone who trained in the light do-chi would naturally receive the title of Light Knight, and would be a talent that every empire would fight to win over. Because there was no need to doubt the Light Knights, as long as they were subdued, they would definitely be the most capable subordinates, no matter when. There was no need to worry about them betraying him, and even more so, there was no need to worry about them doing anything that would harm him. Unfortunately, the number of Light Knights was extremely small, and the number of Light Knights who were able to train in the light do-chi to a high level was even more pitiful. Of course, because the light do-chi was difficult to train in, if it was truly mastered, its power would be above the other do-chi, and its most obvious characteristic was that it was able to restrain the darkness do-chi. Once they encountered a creature that possessed the darkness Do-Chi, the light knight strength would be extremely powerful. In front of the light Do-Chi, unless there was a huge difference in strength, it would be very difficult to contend against it. Even if it was the other Do-Chi, when encountering the light Do-Chi of the same level, they would be shocked by the opponent's fearless spirit, and would only be able to display less than 80% of their strength. Therefore, when Yan Bing discovered that the opponent was actually using the light Do-Chi, although he was surprised in his heart, he did not have the time to retaliate. His body floated backwards, and the two magic blades in front of him shone brightly. Just like before, the same magic of ice and fire intertwined. However, this time, with the amplification of the ice goddess's breath and the fire god's roar, the effect was much stronger than before. Moreover, this time, Nian Bing used a second-rank magic. Under Nian Bing's exquisite control, the moment the two energies of ice and fire came into contact with the opponent's light Do-Chi, a triple explosion occurred. This was where Nian Bing was smart. Relying on the powerful magic after entering the magic realm, he could completely superimpose 3 spells. This was also the strongest attack he could release without chanting a curse. Although a lot of magic would be lost during the superposition, the power was still very amazing. The harsh friction sound and the violent explosion sounded at the same time. Ling Nian Bing only felt that his whole body was shocked and warm. That was the aura of light. Fortunately, he reacted quickly. After the opponent's blade broke through the strong explosion, the power of the opponent's blade weakened a lot. He took advantage of the momentum to retreat, so he was not touched by the Do-Chi of the blade. Well, it's not easy to practice the ice and fire Do-Chi to this level. Why be a bandit? Come and be a mercenary. Vagrant did not chase after him. He carried the huge blade on his shoulder and looked at Nian Bing with a smile. Nian Bing finally understood why Vagrant's nickname was Gold-Plated Blade. With the light Do-Chi, his blade flashed with golden light. It was indeed like gold plating. Brother Vagrant, do you know that your smile is very ugly? Especially you should brush your teeth. The laughter suddenly stopped. Vagrant closed his mouth so that his big yellow teeth would not be exposed. He said angrily, I hate it when people talk about my teeth. Little bandit, you can leave. I don't want to kill people. Nian Bing held the 2 magic blades on the ground beside him and said indifferently, But I have to plunder. Vagrant's strength had already aroused his competitive spirit. Now, even without Garamandi's request, he also wanted to fight with this light knight. But I don't understand. You are a dignified light knight. Why do you want to be a mercenary? Vagrant said, I also don't understand. You are a dignified successor of the ice and fire Do-Chi. Why do you want to be a bandit? As far as I know, your family should be rich. Nian Bing didn't bother to explain himself. Instead, he channeled his mana and began chanting an incantation. Although he wasn't able to chant a stronger incantation at this distance, he still had enough time to chant a Tier 4 incantation. He chose to chant a Fire-type incantation. Coupled with the blizzard under his feet, it was also a very good Ice and Fire-type attack. When the Ice and Fire-type attack reached level 4, the power was already quite impressive. In fact, on the surface, Nian Bing was still at a disadvantage. After all, he was a magician and not a warrior. When a magician and a warrior fought face to face, if they did not have the help of magic scrolls, it would be very disadvantageous for them. This was because the incantation took time. Nian Bing's incantation was very soft. Vagrant could only see his lips buzzing. The red air flow gathered in the direction of the righteous Yang sword. Nian Bing's eyes brightened. 2 cold lights shone from behind the skull marrow mask. He raised his hands, and the blizzard under his feet appeared. Together with a single form of firewall, he suddenly rushed towards Vagrant. Vagrant faced the attack head-on. His eyes showed a trace of surprise. When did the ice and fire Do-Chi become able to be used like this? Boy! You are not bad. This time, he jumped up. The original golden light on the blade instantly spread to his whole body. The light Do Chi wrapped his body like a golden flame. He also went straight up and down, but this time, the earth Do Chi was much more tyrannical. The golden light seemed to have risen to the heavens and split the earth apart. Nian Bing only had time to control the explosion of the same origin of ice and fire before the golden light slashed down. He could clearly see that the golden light actually flashed with a hint of green when it came into contact with his magic. His heart shook. He did not have time to think. He did not even have time to turn around. His feet alternately touched the ground, and he quickly retreated. The air seemed to be frozen in an instant. The ice and fire type attack exploded at the same time and displayed the power it should have. However, whether it was the cold of the ice or the heat of the fire, when they met the silver golden light, they were automatically blocked. The huge sword actually cut Nian Bing's magic in half like cutting firewood. At the same time, the sword rushed forward and caught up with Nian Bing's body like lightning. What could Nian Bing do now? He could no longer rely on his own magic. Even if it was a first-step magic, he still needed to urge his magic, and he simply did not have the time. At this critical moment, his reaction was very fast. His hands made the same movements as the two magic swords. One blue and one red light gathered in front of him. Relying on the sigh of the ice goddess and the roar of the fire god, he directly faced the opponent's sword. The ice and fire type attack was the combination of two extreme magic. The power that it could unleash was incomparable to that of a single elemental magic. Although the wandering light Do Chi managed to cut through Nian Bing's magic, it was not as easy as it seemed. The sword light that was shot out was already at the end of its flight. Nian Bing's hands trembled violently. The sigh of the snow goddess and the roar of the fire god were knocked out of his hands at the same time. The remaining golden radiance slashed into his chest, and he felt a warm sensation. The impact sent him flying 30 feet away, but he didn't spit out any blood. Nian Bing, who was familiar with the characteristics of his skin, was very familiar with the characteristics of Garamandi's. If it wasn't for that month of tempering, he might have been cut open. At the very last moment, the light Do Chi only managed to cut open his clothes and left a faint mark on his chest. While Nian Bing was rejoicing, the wandering light Do Chi was shocked. He did not expect that even after using 70% of his strength, he still would not be able to finish off this bandit. His figure flashed, displaying a speed that was completely disproportionate to his size. In the next moment, he was already in front of Nian Bing. His sword pointed forward, and placed it on Nian Bing's neck. Just as Nian Bing was about to retaliate, the wandering light Do Chi suddenly retreated 3 steps as if he had met a ghost. For the first time, a look of shock appeared in his eyes. His eyes were fixed on Nian Bing's chest, and his body did not move at all. He did not attack again. Of course, Nian Bing did not understand why the wandering light Do Chi would stop, but he would not let this opportunity go. He clasped his hands in front of his chest, and quickly launched a second-grade ice and fire attack. In the face of danger, the wandering light Do Chi subconsciously reacted. He waved the sword in his hand, creating a barrier of light that blocked the ice and fire magic. Nian Bing, of course, did not expect his attack to hurt the wandering light Do Chi. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he hurriedly got up from the ground and ran towards Garamandi's. The Great One, he is swordsman. If you still want to eat good food, quickly come and help me. A figure flashed, and Garamandi's finally appeared. But it was not enough. He blocked Nian Bing's path. He raised his hand and knocked on Nian Bing's head. Idiot, idiot, what are you doing? Nian Bing angrily said. Did you see his Saint Battle Chi? Do you think I can deal with a radiant knight with Saint Battle Chi? He is definitely not an ordinary mercenary. Garamandi snorted and said, You idiot, why don't you have any confidence in yourself? If you did not talk so much nonsense and directly used your strongest spell, then he might not be able to deal with the 7th grade ice and fire magic. A mage against a warrior in close combat, if you don't die, who will? You only know how to belittle yourself. Although it is only a 7th grade spell, don't forget that the ice and fire magic can greatly increase your attack power. You have the opportunity to suppress your opponent. Who can you blame for giving up the opportunity? I will not take action. The battles between you humans have nothing to do with me. Nian Bing's heart was sweating. He just remembered that Garamandes could not casually take action against humans. But what should he do now? Looking at the appearance of Wandering Stochi, he seems to be at the same level as Feng Nu. They have just entered the realm of swordsmen. It's just that he does not have a good weapon like Feng Nu, and his Saint Battle Chi is also worse than Feng Nu's. But he is a mage. Even if Garamandes is right, can Wandering give him the opportunity to chant a spell? Turning back, Nian Bing could only helplessly summon the Holy Radiance sword from his space ring. He can only take one step at a time and secretly chant the spell of Blizzard. At least this way he can run faster. But, to his surprise, Wandering did not chase after him. He raised his head and looked at Nianbing with a strange gaze. Suddenly, he turned around and walked towards his 2 companions and said in a deep voice, "Go and give him 100 purple coins." After saying that, he directly mounted his horse. Nianbing was stunned. Did he hear it wrong? He asked his subordinates to give him 100 purple coins. That is the 1,000 purple coins that he asked for before. He clearly has the upper hand. Why does he want to give me money? Is it because he was shocked by Garamandes? That was impossible. Garamandes did not show his strength. Nian Bing's thoughts were running wild. Wandering's 2 companions were also puzzled. The one on the left said, "Brother, are you sure? Why do you want to give him money? 100 purple coins is not a small amount." Wandering stared at him and said, "I know what I am doing. Go and get it. I will pay for it." The subordinate seemed to be very afraid of him. He did not dare to say anything and turned around to run back to the caravan. Wandering raised his head and looked at Nianbing. His eyes showed surprise again because he saw the shining Holy Radiance sword in Nianbing's hand. At this time, Nianbing did not think too much about why Wandering did this. He was picking up his Morning Dew sword and Righteous Yang sword. "Little brother, come here," Wandering said gently to Nianbing. Chapter 71. Nianbing held 3 blades. Since Wanderer did not chase after her, he would not be a threat to her. She looked at Wanderer and asked, "How do you know that I am younger than you?" Wanderer laughed and said, "Your voice is obviously fake. You can fool ordinary people, but you want to fool me? It won't be that easy. If I tell you to come over, then come over. I will not harm you. This time, I will consider your robbery a success. To think that this is the first time in my life that I have been robbed successfully. I have to give you face." After saying that, his gaze fell on Nian Bing's chest. Nian Bing subconsciously lowered his head to take a look. Only then did he realize that the heavenly flower token that hung around his neck was exposed after his clothes were torn. The white jade shone with a lustrous luster. His heart skipped a beat, and he immediately understood something. He reverted to his original voice and asked in a strange tone, "You know the owner of this token?" Wanderer nodded and said, "This is my sister-in-law's thing. Kid, since you are humming this plate, you should recognize me. Why did you come to rob me? Tell me, what is your relationship with the owner of this plate?" Nian Bing snorted and said, "Aren't you afraid that I stole this plate? Since I am here to rob, I am not a good person." The vagabond laughed, once again revealing his big yellow teeth. "What a joke! This is the funniest joke in the world. In this continent, I'm afraid there aren't many people who can take my sister-in-law's things. You think you can? You can't even beat me. How can you take it? All right. Since you are not willing to say, I will not ask anymore. Anyway, I will give face to the owner of this plate. At most, I will ask her to pay me back and leave." At this time, Wanderer's subordinate had already ridden back. His horse-controlling technique was extremely exquisite. He came to Wanderer's side and handed over a large leather bag. Wanderer did not even look at it and directly threw the leather bag to Nianbing. "Take it and spend it. Don't be a robber in the future. This is not a good job. If you lose your life, your family will be sad for you." Nianbing received the leather bag. The light in his eyes flickered continuously. Family Eryu reminded him of his parent. At the same time, he also remembered the owner of this heavenly flower tablet. "I actually robbed a merchant caravan protected by Auntie Yu's friend. No, this won't do. How can I take this money?" In his heart, Xiang Ruyan, who had given him the heavenly flower token, was one of the few people he respected the most. Nianbing had never been a dog, but the person who snorted to himself. But he cherished it very much. "Since you know the owner of this brand, I don't want the money. You can leave now." After saying that, he turned around and walked towards Garamandes. A figure flashed. The vagrant, who had just received the leather pouch and was somewhat surprised, felt that the leather pouch in his hand was gone. Garamandes weighed the leather element in his hand and chuckled. "Not bad, not bad. That's a lot of money. It's enough to eat for a while. Why wouldn't they want it? It's a waste if they don't want it. If you don't want it, I want it." Nianbing turned around and looked at Garamandes with a complicated gaze. Suddenly, as if he had decided on something, he resolutely said, "Garamandes, return the money to them. You can't take this money." Garamandes snorted and said, "When did it become your turn to ask me? You say I can't take it, so I can't take it? I want it." "Garamandes, return the money to them. Even if I have to go begging on the streets, I will definitely let you eat your fill." Nianbing's expression was very calm, but his voice revealed an unprecedented aura. Garamandes's heart shook. This was the first time he had seen Nianbing with such a serious expression. Even when he had threatened his life, he had not seen him like this. He frowned and said, "Begging? How much money can I get from begging?" Nianbing took a few steps to Garamandes and said in a deep voice, "You still want to pick them up? I'll sell Chenlu. That should be enough, right?" Garamandes's eyes were filled with shock. After interacting with Nianbing for so long, he knew that the Morning Dew and upright yang blades were Nianbing's most treasured items. At this moment, he actually wanted to sell the Morning Dew for an outsider's money. It could be seen how important this matter was to him. Garamandes did not insist and threw the money pouch back to Lu Lang in disdain. "Fine. If you want to be a good person, then do it. Just let me eat my fill." After saying that, he walked along the main road without looking back. The shock in Vagrant's heart was unparalleled. First of all, he did not have the time to see what Garamandes was doing. If the other party wanted to take his life, with that kind of speed, he would not even have the chance to dodge. What kind of power was this? Perhaps even his big brother would not be able to reach that level. Could it be that this red-haired young man was a god? Nianbing bowed to Lu Lang and said, "I'm sorry. I did not know that you were Auntie Yu's friends. Please forgive me for offending you just now." After saying that, he chased after Garamandes. At this moment, he felt that he had done something that he was most proud of. Even Garamandes was moved by him. "Auntie Yu, you won't blame me, right? How are you now? Are you okay?" After the caravan left, Lu Lang did not chase after them to ask any more questions. He noticed that all the horses in the caravan were trembling slightly when Nianbing and Garamandes passed by them. Only after they passed by did the horses regain their ability to move again. He could not guess the origins of Nianbing and Lu Lang, but now he completely believed that these two people really had the ability to rob the caravan that he was protecting. Lu Lang shouldered an important mission. Although he was very curious about the origins of Nianbing, now was not the time to ask more. Everything would wait until he finished this mission and went back to ask about it. Although Garamandes deliberately hid his begging aura, horses were psychic animals. The looming long qi on his body was still felt by the horses. Therefore, although these horses had been trained for a long time, they were still deterred by Garamandes's aura. Nian Bing, do you know those people just now? Garamandes finally spoke. After walking for an hour, Nian Bing remained silent. Naturally, the prideful Garamandes did not speak. However, in the end, he could not stand the loneliness. Nian Bing shook his head and said, I don't know. Garamandes, do you still remember? I once told you that when I first cultivated the origin of ice and fire, I was saved by this heavenly flower token. Without it, I would have died long ago. It is impossible for me to cultivate the origin of ice and fire. The radiant knight who fought with me just now knew the owner of this token. Therefore, I really can't rob them. However, I lied to you about the pagoda. The ice goddess stone on the morning dew dagger is the last thing that my mother left me. I will definitely not sell it. But don't worry, I will definitely let you eat until you are full. After we arrive at Holland, I will find a restaurant to be a chef. It should be no problem for me to provide you with food. Garamandes suddenly patted Nian Bing's shoulder and chuckled. I knew that you would not be willing to sell it. Forget it this time. Anyway, when the time comes, we will just have to eat. However, after not interacting with you humans for a few years, I didn't expect you humans to have become so strong. What level of warrior is that fellow just now? Looking at his attire, he should be a very ordinary warrior. Nian Bing glanced at Garamandes. She said, if he is an ordinary warrior among the humans, Kupa, the realm of the gods that you mentioned will not be able to remain mysterious for long. There are less than 10 radiant knights of his level in the entire continent. His strength is close to that of swordsmen's. Although I don't know much about the continent's martial arts world, but until now, that wandering gilded blade is the third swordsman I have seen. What kind of position do you think he has among the human warriors? Garamandes chuckled and said, if that is the case, the caravan he led just now must have transported a lot of good stuff. Otherwise, why would swordsmen be mobilized? Nian Bing nodded and said, I'm afraid so. Being a mercenary is not a noble occupation on the continent. Warriors with high martial arts would usually not join a mercenary group. Just now, he called himself the Blade King Mercenary Group. I think, that might be a fake. As for what he was transporting, I can't guess. It should be very precious. Garamandes turned around and looked at the back of the caravan. What a pity, what a pity. I'll give you some face this time. However, I still want to drink Icefire level 8 seafood. You know that I love eating fish the most. Sure, no problem. When we reach Holland City, I will definitely think of a way to let you eat your fill. As they got closer and closer to the Ottoman Empire's former capital, Holland City, the number of people on the road gradually increased. Most of them were poor people who always wore simple clothes. Most of them were disheveled and had a sallow complexion. Without a doubt, this was the result of war. As long as there was war, the unluckiest ones would naturally be the commoners. Nian Bing, I'm hungry. Garamandes was like a child as he leaned close to Nian Bing. Nian Bing smiled bitterly and said, then you can eat me. Didn't you say that there would be no problem if I didn't eat for a few months? I think you're not hungry, you're just craving food. Garamandes chuckled and said, you know me so well. Anyway, it's fine as long as you help me solve the problem. How about this, I'll help you catch some wild beasts and you roast them for me to eat. Nian Bing shook her head and said, no need. We should be reaching Holland soon. When we get there, let's eat something first. Just bear with it for a while. Bear with it? I, Si Ching, have been bearing with it for 3 days. You, on the other hand, are satisfied with just some dry rations every day. As for me, I haven't even eaten anything edible. Holland City, right? Let's go now. A familiar yet incomprehensible incantation sounded beside Nian Bing. Garamandes was completely oblivious to the fact that there were many commoners around him. Under the cover of the silver light, He and Nian Bing's bodies disappeared in a flash. "This is the right direction, right?" Garamandi's voice sounded beside Nian Bing's ear. Nian Bing discovered that she was currently in a strange space. Everything around her was silver, and nothing could be seen. "How would I know? I can't even see clearly right now." Garamandi's chuckled and said, "It should be right. However, I've been using spatial magic for a long time, so I'm a little rusty. I hope we're not in the wrong place." With a flash of silver light, the surrounding scenery appeared. Nian Bing was surprised to find that there was actually nothing around her other than Garamandi's. She subconsciously looked down and was stunned for a moment. In the next moment, a strong feeling of weightlessness spread throughout her body. Bang! She fell heavily to the ground, scaring the surrounding pedestrians and causing them to scatter in all directions. All of them looked at her in shock. After falling heavily, her entire body felt like it was falling apart. Nian Bing jumped up from the ground and cursed loudly. "Garamandi's, you bastard, what kind of lousy magic is this?" The silver light once again wrapped around Nian Bing's body. Under the shocked gazes of the surrounding people, she disappeared into thin air. When she reappeared, she was already in a deserted corner. Garamandi's appeared in front of her and chuckled. "Sorry, my mistake. I forgot that you can't fly, so I teleported you into the sky. Fortunately, you won't die from a height of 10 zhang. It's hard to say if you want to walk 100 zhang." It turned out that when Nian Bing discovered that there was nothing around her, she was suspended in midair. Once she lost control of her spatial magic, her body would naturally fall. However, even she was very surprised. After falling from a height of 10 zhang, other than some pain all over her body, she didn't groan too badly. "Is this still a human's body?" "Serves you right. Who asked you to not let me eat good food for the past few days? This is still considered light. Next time I'll go higher. This should be the Allen city that you spoke of. You should think of a way to get me something to eat." Nian Bing calmed herself down and looked around. As expected, this was clearly a city. The architectural style of the city was completely different from the Ice Moon Empire. Most of the buildings in the Ice Moon Empire had pointed roofs, but here there were very few tall buildings. Most of them were one-story houses. Looking around the corner, although there were many pedestrians on the road, there were also a frightening number of beggars. Almost every 3 or 4 zhang, there would be 1 or 2 beggars sitting on the ground begging. Is this the capital of the Ottoman Empire? How did it end up in such a state? Nian Bing didn't know that among the 5 empires of the Yangon continent, the Ottoman Empire was surrounded by 4 other empires. Other than the Ice Moon Empire, the Longmu Empire, Huarong Empire, and Kiru Empire all coveted it. They viewed the Ottoman Empire as the best piece of fat meat. However, the empires kept each other in check. Together with the Ice Moon Empire's inclination towards the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Empire didn't perish. However, the territory around it had decreased by a lot. Being harassed by the other 3 empires for many years, the Ottoman Empire focused most of its energy on war. Large amounts of the empire's resources were also used here, causing the development of the Ottoman Empire to slow down. Not to mention a powerful country like the Huarong Empire, even the Ice Moon Empire was much stronger than it. Thus, Allen's wealth was differentiated by region. The closer to the 8 ice empires, the more prosperous it was. The closer to the south to the Huarong and Kiru empires, the more barren it was. Allen City was located in the center of the empire. Compared to Ulan City, its conditions were slightly inferior. It was just that the area it occupied was much larger. "What do we eat? If there's anything good to eat, hurry up and bring me there." Garamandi's wasn't a dragon that liked to wait. "Alright, eat. Eat until you die. I still have a dozen gold coins from that vagrant. It's enough for you to eat a few meals. Let's go and look for a restaurant." The 2 of them walked out from the corner. After identifying the direction, Nian Bing brought Garamandi's to the center of Allen City. "There should be a place to eat there. The closer they got to the center of Alland City, the fewer beggars there were. There were many shops in the surroundings. Although they weren't big, they still looked somewhat prosperous. After walking for a short distance, they finally saw a restaurant. Without waiting for Nian Bing to say anything, Garamandes had already walked over quickly. The restaurant looked ordinary from the outside. There wasn't even a receptionist for the 6 of them. When the 2 of them entered the restaurant, it was already close to noon. About 70% of the customers were already seated. Nian Bing pulled Garamandes to a table near the window. Garamandes had always been interested in human restaurants. He looked around, especially when he saw the food on the other tables. He was almost drooling. "What would the 2 of you like to eat?" A waiter walked over and asked politely. Nian Bing and Garamandes looked to be about the same age. Although their temperaments were different, the 2 of them were both handsome. Garamandes exuded a faint domineering aura. Nian Bing, on the other hand, was wearing ordinary clothes because she practiced magic. However, she exuded a high school aura. Garamandes said without hesitation, "Just serve whatever good food you have. It's enough for 10 people. 10 people? The waiter looked at him in surprise. Garamandes said impatiently, "Just serve when I tell you to. Hurry up. Are you afraid that we won't be able to pay?" The waiter nodded his head. He hurried over. Nian Bing said in a low voice, "Great Garamandes, when you eat later, please be more refined." He had a deep understanding of Garamandes's table manners. Before coming here, they had once eaten in a restaurant in a small town. Garamandes's almost crazy table manners had scared many people. What's there to be refined about? Eat your fill first. Garamandes wouldn't listen to Nian Bing. Nian Bing was helpless. He had to tell everyone the truth. He didn't know this big eater in front of him. However, his life seemed to be more important. He had to endure. He didn't say anything else and turned his attention to the side. At this moment, the guests at the table closest to them were talking. Their voices were very loud, and Nian Bing could hear them clearly. "Have you heard? Duke Bluefeather has already returned. Duke Bluefeather is back? Don't we need him to defend? Without him leading the army, what if Hua Rong and Kiru attack again?" Hearing these 2 sentences, Nian Bing couldn't help but perk up. Wasn't Duke Bluefeather's residence the target of Luo Ro's misfortune? Of course we don't need to defend. It's said that under the mediation of the Ice Moon Empire, the matter has been resolved. The Hua Rong Empire and the Kiru Empire both agreed not to invade our country for 3 years. Of course, our Alland also paid a heavy price. The Hua Rong Empire and the Kiru Empire are like a tiger and a wolf. Who knows how much of our country's resources they've stolen this time. Sigh, I knew the final result would be like this. It's either ceding land or paying reparations. Alland is almost finished. Shu, lower your voice. It won't be good if the soldiers hear you. Sigh, our Ottoman Empire is still supported by Duke Bluefeather. If he didn't lead the Silver Feather Knights to fight desperately, Huarong and Kiru would have attacked long ago. We can't stay here anymore. If we can't, we'll all move to another place. That place is closer to the Ice Moon Empire. The Ice Moon Empire won't just watch as Alland is destroyed. If the Huarong Empire is a little stronger, the situation of the entire continent might change. You can't say that. I don't think the Ice Moon Empire has any good intentions. They only need to invite that Ice Goddess Priestess to help them. The Huarong Empire wouldn't dare to be so arrogant. Our Ottoman Empire has too few mages. We'll be bullied by the price. The Huarong and Kiru empires have already taken over so much land, yet they still want to expand. They're really ambitious. Actually, if Alland was ruled by Duke Bluefeather, we might be able to change the current situation. Unfortunately, Duke Bluefeather is too loyal to the royal family. It's almost impossible. Let's not talk about this anymore. Politics has nothing to do with us commoners. Let's drink. The conversation stopped for a moment. The guests at the table continued eating and drinking. From their words, it wasn't hard to tell the status of Duke Bluefeather in the Ottoman Empire. Nian Bing thought to herself, Luo Ro, oh Luo Ro, you still expect the daughter of Duke Bluefeather to help you? The Ottoman Empire can't even take care of itself right now. Forget it. No matter what, I don't have to do what I promised. I've already completed my mission by sending the letter over. However, from the words of these people, it seems that this Duke Bluefeather is the commander of the Silver Feather Knights. Auntie Ruyan was protected by the Silver Feather Knights back then. Maybe this Duke even knows Auntie Ruyan. It would be great if I could meet her through him. After so many years, I wonder how Auntie is doing now. Thinking of Ruyan's kind smile, Nian Bing's heart couldn't help but warm up. He stood up and walked over to the table of guests. Facing a man in a white robe, he asked, Big brother, may I trouble you for a moment? The man in white was drinking when he heard Nian Bing's voice. He couldn't help but look up. Nian Bing's handsome appearance gave people a good impression. Coupled with his sincere and polite tone, the man in white asked, Little brother, what do you want to ask? Judging from your accent, you must be from another city. Nian Bing nodded. I'm from the Ice Moon Empire. Can I ask how to get to Duke Bluefeather's residence? The man in white was obviously shocked. He sized up Nian Bing. You want to find Duke Bluefeather? Little brother, I think you want to join the army. Then you should go to the military. Not just anyone can meet Duke Bluefeather. Nian Bing put on a respectful expression and said, Duke Bluefeather has always been my idol and the person I respect the most. I just want to know where his residence is. Maybe I can wait outside his door and see him when he comes out. The man in white heard Nian Bing's words and his expression became much better. He nodded approvingly, not bad. Duke Bluefeather can be said to be the guardian of our Åland Empire. Without him, the Ottoman Empire wouldn't even be able to maintain its current state. There are many young people like you. However, whether you can meet the Duke or not depends on your luck. The Duke's residence is in the south of the city, in Åland City. Apart from the palace, Duke Bluefeather's residence is the largest. You can find it anywhere in the south of the city. Nian Bing smiled and said, Thank you for your guidance. With that, he returned to his seat. Nian Bing, you didn't bring me to Åland City to eat good food, did you? Garamandi's dissatisfied voice sounded. Nian Bing smiled and said, Of course. Why wouldn't it be? However, I have some personal matters to attend to. A friend asked me to deliver a letter. Don't worry, it won't take up too much time. Deliver a letter. That's fine, but you have to remember that you have my magic imprint on you. It's impossible for you to run away. Garamandi's eyes suddenly turned red. He looked at Nian Bing with deep meaning, as if saying, Kid, I'll eat you up in the future. Nian Bing shook his head helplessly and said in a low voice, It's my honor to be with the great Garamandis. Why would I run away? Don't worry. After eating, we'll find a place to stay. I'll deliver the letter in the afternoon. If you don't like it here, we'll go to the Hwarong Empire tomorrow. The Hwarong Empire is the strongest and most prosperous empire in the Yangon continent. There's no lack of good food there. 2 hours later, Nian Bing walked out of the restaurant with Garamandis with a bitter face. Tui, what kind of shitty restaurant is this? The food is disgusting. Nian Bing, your cooking is still better than theirs. Garamandis was extremely dissatisfied with the restaurant's food. Boss, you should hurry up and scold them. You didn't eat any less just now, and they were all the most expensive dishes. We only have 2 gold coins left, which is probably enough to stay in the restaurant. It seems that I really need to find a job to support you. Garamandis said as if it was a matter of course. Although it's disgusting, I still need to eat my fill. If you want to find a job, go ahead. As long as there's good food, I don't care where you stay. Hearing Nian Bing say so, instead of getting angry, Nian Bing was overjoyed. She lowered her head, and a light flashed in her eyes that Garamandis was unable to detect. The word use continuously reverberated in Nian Bing's mind. Although Garamandes had high requirements for food, he did not have any particular preferences for accommodation. As long as he could find a bed to sleep on, he would be fine. After eating his fill, sleeping had always been one of his favorite things to do. The two found the cheapest inn and settled down. Garamandes went to sleep, while Nian Bing used one of the 2 gold coins she had on her to buy the cheapest 10 blank magic scrolls in a magic shop. Selling magic scrolls was probably the fastest way to earn money. With the way Garamandes ate, there were probably not many people who could afford to support him. Nian Bing's attainments in magic arrays had also greatly improved due to the improvement of the ice and fire homology. Although the success rate of producing blank magic scrolls into magic scrolls was slightly lower, she only needed to produce a few ordinary Tier 4 magic scrolls. Including the trigger effect, it was not a difficult task. This Allen city was truly poor. She would just sell a few magic scrolls for some money. It would be fine as long as she had enough to spend. It only took Nian Bing an hour to craft a few scrolls. Aside from one that failed due to carelessness, Nian Bing had successfully crafted 9 Tier 4 trigger scrolls. Mandes's dragon snort was truly loud. Nian Bing glanced at him before stealthily slipping out of the room. According to the information he had gathered, he headed towards the south of Allen City. There was no hurry to sell the magic scrolls. She would first deliver the letter. Just as the white-clothed man in the restaurant had said, finding the Duke of Bluefeather's mansion in Allen City was not a difficult task. After arriving at the southern part of the city, Nian Bing only needed to ask one person to find her destination. 2 streets away, she could already see the Tuzhong tall crimson courtyard wall. The Duke of Bluefeather's mansion occupied a large area. The Tuzhong tall crimson courtyard wall was like a city wall. At the entrance, 16 silver feather knights dressed in silver light armor stood in 2 neat rows. The feathers on their helmets were all green, and each of them had their hands on their swords. Although their eyes were focused, Nian Bing could clearly feel that they were constantly observing their surroundings. The moment there was any movement, these silver feather knights would be able to react quickly. 16 low-ranked silver feather knight. That was equivalent to 16 sword master level warriors, who said that the Ottoman Empire was weak. Just the 10,000 silver feather knights were probably only comparable to the Huarong Empire's Order of the Flaming Lion. No wonder the commoners said that the Duke of Bluefeather was the protector of the Ottoman Empire. The silver feather knights were definitely comparable to an ordinary army of 200,000. Inside the Grand Duke's mansion, a handsome middle-aged man in his 40s was sitting behind the secretary's desk. His brows were furrowed, as if he was thinking about something troubling him. Although this person was sitting, he would inadvertently reveal a strong aura of agility and austere killing intent. The light in his eyes was constantly flashing, and the black robe on his body was unable to cover up his stalwart body. His hands on the desk were very unique. His palms were wide and thick, and his fingers were long and slender. Although the joints were not prominent, one could tell from the appearance that they were definitely a pair of very powerful hands. Outside the door, a person walked in. A gentle and pleasant voice sounded. "You're back. What did His Majesty say today?" The middle-aged man looked up. The person who walked in was a woman. She looked to be around 27 or 28 years old. She wore a light blue dress with beautiful patterns embroidered on it with silver thread. Her eyebrows were arched, and her nose was delicate. Her skin was as smooth as cream, and her long dark green hair draped over her back like a waterfall. It was tied up with a silver ring. Her blue eyes were crystal clear, and her beautiful face showed a bit of concern and worry. If Nian Bing saw her, she might not be able to recognize her immediately. She was Yu Ruyan, the one who gave her the Tianhua token. 8 years had passed, but her appearance had not changed at all. Chapter 72. Ruyan, come here. When the middle-aged man saw Yu Ruyan, his furrowed brows immediately relaxed. A gentle smile appeared on his face, and the love in his eyes was clear. He reached out and hugged his beloved wife, letting her sit on his lap. Breathing in her familiar fragrance, the middle-aged man's heart calmed down. What's wrong? From the looks of it, it doesn't seem to be going well. Did His Majesty not approve your request for military funds? Urian's eyes revealed a trace of worry. The middle-aged man shook his head and said, How could that be? His Majesty has never had any objections to my requests for military fund. However, so what if the funds were approved? Right now, most of the southern regions of the empire are in a state of famine. If this continues, there will be unforeseen events. As the saying goes, when the people are rich, the country will be rich. I alone am not enough for the empire. Holland is so big, but there isn't a single person who can help His Majesty govern the empire. You also know that those despicable people in the court only know how to flatter him. If this continues, the empire will be no more. Urian sighed softly and said, Forget it. Lan Yu, no matter how much you worry, it's useless. The empire's drawbacks aren't formed in a day or two. You have to take care of your body and don't overwork yourself. Lan Yu took a deep breath and said, I also want to rest, but can I rest? After this battle, 3,000 of the Silver Feather Knights will never see their loved ones again. The entire Silver Feather Knights only have 10,000 people. If the Huarong Empire is ruthless enough to send the Order of the Flaming Lion, I'm afraid that even I won't be able to withstand it. Although the Ice Moon Empire is on good terms with our empire, they won't sincerely help us. As time passes, if our empire still doesn't undergo any qualitative changes, I'm afraid. Urian hugged her husband's neck and said, All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Be happy. Oh right, it's not all bad news recently. The Silver Feather Knights that I'm in charge of now have 5,000 men. 2,000 of them can go to the battlefield. Although their strength can't compare to your subordinates, who have gone through countless trials of iron and blood. However, I believe that as long as they train more, they will be able to make up for this loss. In fact, the Empire has no lack of knowledgeable people. A young brother and sister came a few days ago. The elder brother is an expert fighter. I think they can join the Silver Feather Knight. Lan Yu smiled and said, I'm at ease with you. Forget it, let's not talk about this. I've only been back for a few days and haven't spent time with you. Just as Urian was about to say something, a respectful voice suddenly came from outside, reporting. Urian frowned and asked, What is it? Reporting to Madam, there is a young man outside the manor, saying that he is looking for Mississippi. Urian and Lan Yu looked at each other in surprise. Urian said, Looking for Chen Chen? What? Urian stood up from Lan Yu's lap and said, Bring him in. Come here to see me and the Duke. Yes. Nian Bing stood at the entrance of the Duke's mansion. The 16 Silver Feather Knights stared at him with 32 pairs of eyes. It was an uncomfortable feeling. He had already shown them the bead given to him by Luo Ro, but the knights didn't let him in. Instead, they reported back to the mansion and sent someone to pass the message. The enormous vermilion door opened, and a servant in green clothes walked out. He glanced at Nian Bing and said, Please come with me. Nian Bing heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he could deliver the letter, his mission would be considered complete. He then followed the servant into the Grand Duke's mansion under the watchful eyes of the 16 Silver Feather Knights who were in charge of guarding the mansion. The first thing Nian Bing saw when he entered was a spacious square. To be more accurate, it was a training ground. It occupied an area of about 2,000 square meters. In the center, there were more than 10 people fighting with each other. There were several weapon racks neatly placed next to the training ground. Doqi filled the area. From the looks of it, all of them were at least great sword masters. As expected of the Ottoman Empire's number 1 military family. Although the way these warriors attacked was simple, their momentum was extremely strong. The fighting techniques they used were the most suitable for the battlefield. The Duke's mansion was very large. Going back and forth was like walking through a maze. The servant in green had a calm expression. He didn't say a word to Nian Bing and only led the way. After passing through 3 courtyards, the green-clothed servant brought Nian Bing to a row of houses and stopped. He said to Nian Bing, "Please wait for a moment." With that, he turned to the door and said, "Reporting to the Duke, I've brought him here." A deep and vigorous voice sounded, "Let him in." "Yes." The servant in green nodded and stepped aside to let him in. Nian Bing gestured for him to enter. Nian Bing didn't stand on ceremony and pushed open the door. Just as he stepped into the room, he saw Yu Ruyan standing beside the desk. Nian Bing's blood rushed to his head. His originally calm eyes were filled with emotion. He took a few steps to stand in front of Yu Ruyan. His body was slightly trembling. Yu Ruyan saw Nian Bing quickly walking towards her. A trace of vigilance rose in her heart. Her eyes flashed with a cold light as she shouted, "Stop!" Nearly 8 years had passed and she hadn't changed much. However, Nian Bing had changed a lot. 8 years ago, Nian Bing was only a child. 8 years later, he had become a handsome young man. Adding on the changes in his figure, how could Yu Ruyan recognize him after 8 years? "Auntie, don't you recognize me?" Nian Bing knelt down on one knee and respectfully bowed to Yu Ruyan. His voice was trembling as tears flowed down his face. He never thought that he would be able to see the auntie he had been yearning for day and night. Yu Ruyan and Nian Bing looked at each other before turning to look at Nian Bing. She felt a sense of familiarity from Nian Bing's handsome face. She hesitated for a moment before asking, "You are?" "Mother, I once called you mother." As he spoke, Nian Bing pulled open the front of his shirt and pulled out the Huatian card. Yu Ruyan's body trembled. Her eyes were filled with surprise. She stepped forward and pulled Nian Bing up. Nian Bing was now half a head taller than her. She carefully looked at the handsome young man and said in surprise, "Are you that little fatso from the Ice Moon Empire 7 years ago? You are." "I'm Nian Bing, Auntie." "You haven't changed at all, you're still as beautiful as ever." Nian Bing held Yu Ruyan's hand, his voice full of emotion. Aside from her own husband, any other man who wants to touch her would only have one result, death. But now that Yu Ruyan's hand was held by Nian Bing, her heart was filled with love. She didn't feel the slightest bit of blasphemy. The pure love in Nian Bing's eyes deeply infected her. A cough sounded. If the Duke of Bluefeather had a weakness, it would be jealousy. After all, he had such a beautiful wife. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't allow another man to get close to their wife. Even if this handsome young man was less than half his wife's age. Still, the Duke's heart was filled with jealousy. "Ruyan, aren't you going to introduce me?" Nian Bing finally noticed that there was another person sitting next to her. The Duke of Bluefeather stood up. His height was about the same as Nian Bing's. Judging from his aura, Nian Bing immediately made a judgment. Retracting the emotions in her eyes, she respectfully said, "You must be the Duke of Bluefeather." "Nice to meet you, I'm Nian Bing." Yu Ruyan took the initiative to hold Nian Bing's hand. "Bluefeather, do you remember 7 years ago when I gave the Huatian token to Chen Chen on the way back from seeing her teacher? This is Nian Bing. I didn't expect that after 7 years, Nian Bing would come looking for me. When he first saw me, he called me mother. I didn't expect him to be such a handsome young man." Bluefeather suddenly realized. "He's the little fatso you spoke of? Nian Bing, since you came looking for Ruyan, why do you have Chen Chen's token?" Nian Bing wiped away the tears on her face and smiled. "I didn't know Auntie was here. I was asked by a friend to deliver a letter to your daughter. You and Auntie you are." Yu Ruyan smiled faintly and said, "Silly boy, he's my master. The Duke's daughter you want to see is our daughter. Didn't you see Chen Chen back then?" Nian Bing finally understood and couldn't help but praise the Duke of Bluefeather's good fortune. "So that's how it is. Auntie, is Miss Chen Chen here? A friend of mine asked me to deliver this letter to her." The space ring on her hand emitted a faint silver light and the letter Luo Ro gave her appeared out of thin air. Yu Ruyan took the letter and said in surprise, Nian Bing, you're a magician? Nian Bing smiled and nodded. Yes. Yu Ruyan didn't open the letter and smiled. That's good. Our Alland Empire is currently lacking in mages. Is your teacher that old man from back then? But I don't feel any magic fluctuations from him. Chen Chen isn't here. She's studying with her teacher and doesn't come back even once a year. I'll give this letter to her when she comes back this year. Nian Bing said. He's not the teacher who taught me magic. Auntie, this letter is quite urgent. It's related to my friend's marriage. The sooner it's resolved, the better. Yu Ruyan frowned. But this letter is for Chen Chen. I can't open it. Who asked you to deliver the letter? Nian Bing said. It's the daughter of Ice Snow City's treasurer, Luo Ro. Yu Ruyan suddenly said. It's that girl. I haven't seen her in a few years. When Chen Chen met Luo Ro, it was the same year I met you. When we passed by Ice Snow City, we were treated with hospitality. Chen Chen and Ruer hit it off at first sight and became good sisters. They even exchanged tokens with each other. Do you know why Ro Ro is here this time? Nian Bing nodded and said, I heard from Luo Ro that she's here because... Then, he recounted everything that Luo Ro told him in detail. After listening to Nian Bing's explanation, Yu Ruyan smiled and said, If that's the case, I understand Ro Ro's meaning. Duke Bluefeather said, Our Ottoman Empire is facing internal and external troubles. Your auntie and I are very busy. This Miss Luo Ro is also married to the Ice Moon Empire's royal family. This matter is not easy to handle. After all, our energy is limited. What he said was the truth. He was already busy with national affairs. How could he care about these personal matters? Nian Bing had already expected Duke Bluefeather's answer and didn't mind it. After all, he was just a messenger. Although he had a good impression of Luo Ro, they were just ordinary friends. He believed that with Luo Ro's intelligence, even without the help of Duke Bluefeather's family, she wouldn't compromise so easily. At this time, Yu Ruyan suddenly smiled and looked at Bluefeather. This letter came at the right time. The problem you mentioned just now can be solved with this letter. Bluefeather's heart trembled. He was an expert in war. In terms of war, there were not many people in the continent who could compare. However, in terms of intelligence, he had always admired his wife. Ruyan, what do you mean? Yu Ruyan smiled faintly and said, Brother Yu, have you forgotten about this Lady Ruru that I mentioned to you before? When she first met our daughter, she was already quite famous in Ice Snow City. She was known for her intelligence. To a certain extent, her father's position today is mostly due to her efforts. This girl's intelligence is far above mine, especially when it comes to handling various affairs. She is an expert. Although her father is much weaker, he has a good understanding of financial matters. He is also a good person. After his wife's words, Bluefeather immediately understood and said happily, If we secretly bring them to Alland and change their surnames for our use. Yu Ruyan smiled and said, It's good that you understand. What you need to do is to persuade His Majesty to put Ro Ro in an important position. In these years, although I rarely go to the Ice Moon Empire, I am still familiar with Ro Ro's situation. I can guarantee that if she helps His Majesty manage the various affairs of the Empire, it won't be long before the Empire shows a new face. Who said that women are inferior to men? We can't let go of a talent like Ro Ro. This is a good opportunity. Actually, this is probably the reason why Ro Ro asked Nian Bing to send this letter. This girl is very smart. Since she doesn't want to marry the Prince of Ice Moon, she will naturally find a way out for herself. Their family isn't prosperous, only the father and daughter. Thus, the problem isn't difficult to solve. If it really doesn't work, I will go personally. Nian Bing, don't worry, Auntie will take care of this matter. Nian Bing didn't know much about politics, but he was very smart. From the conversation between Yu Ruyan and her husband, he could already see some clues. He couldn't help but praise this Auntie Yu Ruyan's foresight. Luo Ro's reputation as a wise woman wasn't easily obtained. If she were a man, she would have been put in an important position by the Ice Moon Empire. If Bluefeather led Luo Ro to the Ottoman Empire, as long as she didn't look down on her because she was a woman, it wasn't impossible to improve the current situation of the Ottoman Empire. After all, the most important thing to the Ottoman Empire was talent. Auntie, then I will leave this matter to you, Nian Bing respectfully said. Yurian combed her dark green hair, looking very beautiful. Nian Bing, you came all the way here to deliver a letter to a friend. Why don't you stay here for a while? Oh right, you still haven't told me who taught you magic. Nian Bing said. My teacher is Archmage Long Ji of the Ice Moon Empire's Magician Guild. Bluefeather said. So it's Long Ji. I know him. His level of magic is very high. Unfortunately, the Ice Moon Empire has the Ice God Tower and doesn't care much about the guild. Since you are his disciple, your magic must be quite good. Nian Bing, do you have any family in the Ice Moon Empire? Nian Bing's heart trembled. After a while, he shook his head and said, I don't have any family anymore. Bluefeather smiled. Since you don't have anything to worry about and you are fated with Ruyan, why don't you stay in Allen City? The guild here is in need of people. I have been discussing with the Empire's Magician Guild to see if we can form a team of knights like the Flaming Lion. Nian Bing said, Your Grace, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. According to what I know, the members of the Order of the Flaming Lion are all proficient in fire magic. Even if they join the guild directly, they will need a long time to train together to perfect their fusion. Otherwise, it will be easy to accidentally injure their own troop. I respect Auntie you very much, but I still have a lot of things to do. So I can't stay. Bluefeather didn't mind Nian Bing's rejection and smiled. Then forget it. However, if you don't have a good time outside, or if the Ice Moon Empire's Magician Guild doesn't accept you, I welcome you to Allen City at any time. Since you have come from afar, stay with us for a few days and let us play host to you. Nian Bing shook his head and said, I still have friends waiting for me. I'm afraid I can't stay in Allen City any longer. Duke Month, Auntie Yu, I have a request that I hope you can agree to. Yurian smiled gently and said, If you have any requests just tell me. Auntie will do her best to satisfy you. Nian Bing's eyes were filled with emotion as she looked deeply at Yurian and said, Auntie, in my heart, I see you as my mother. Back then, when we met for the first time and weren't familiar with each other, you gave me the precious Heavenly Flower token. What happened next was the Heavenly Flower token in the process of my magic training. It used its gentle aura to pull me back from the danger of going berserk. You can say that you are my savior. I hope that you can give me a chance to repay you. One day, please give me one day to prepare. After one day, I hope to cook a meal for you, okay? Bluefeather and Yurian were stunned. Yurian thought she heard wrongly. Cook? Nian Bing, Auntie doesn't understand what you mean. Nian Bing smiled confidently and said, Auntie, you will understand tomorrow. I will go back first and come back tomorrow. When the time comes, I can show the Heavenly Flower token and enter, right? Yurian nodded and said, Of course, but aren't you a magician? How did you become a chef? Nian Bing smiled and said, Auntie, I have always been a chef. Do you still remember the old man who was with me when we first met? He is the teacher who taught me cooking. To me, cooking and magic are equally important. Duke, Auntie Yu, farewell. Finished speaking, she bowed respectfully to the two and turned to leave. Seeing Nian Bing's back, Bluefeather frowned. Ruyan, what do you think of this young man? Are you sure he is the child you met at that time? Ruyan nodded and said, It can't be wrong. Not only does he have the Heavenly Splendor token, he can also accurately recount the events of when we first met. Most importantly, the emotions in his eyes are the same as back then, without the slightest change. However, this child has already grown up, and is much more rational than back then. Brother Yu, I still think this child is extraordinary and will have great achievements in the future. But I don't understand why he wants to be a chef. Bluefeather smiled. Ruyen, don't look down on any profession, even if it is a chef. Let's wait and see what kind of surprise he will bring us tomorrow. From his confident appearance, it is clear he is confident in his cooking skills. If he is really a talent, I hope you can use his feelings for you to keep him. Right now, our empire is lacking talents. Ruyen frowned slightly and said, Brother Yu, how can you let me take advantage of Nianbing's innocent feelings? If he is willing to stay, then that is good. If not, then let's not force him, okay? Bluefeather laughed. It is my fault I misspoke. Let's do as you say. However, I can also feel that he is not ordinary. Especially his eyes, they are filled with wisdom. After leaving the Duke's mansion, Nianbing did not return to the inn. Instead, he ran to the nearby magic shop and sold the 9 scrolls he had made. If he had not met Ruyen, perhaps he would have only sold 3 or 4 scrolls. But now it was different. He wanted to let Ruyen taste the delicacies he made. Therefore, he now needed more money to buy various precious ingredients. Out of the 9 magic scrolls, Nianbing tested one on the spot and immediately sold the other 8 at a price of 250 gold coins each. After all, these magic scrolls that could protect one's life did not require any magic to activate. They were something that everyone wanted, especially nobles. Therefore, even though they were only Tier 4 magic scrolls, it was inevitable that they would be sold at a high price. From the magic shop, Nianbing found out about the busiest area in Allen City. He took the 200 gold coins he got from selling the scrolls and bought a large amount of ingredients, as well as various seasonings and ingredients for cooking. The reason why he took a day to prepare was because seasonings were the most important in cooking. Seasonings could not only enhance the taste of the food, but also bring out the original taste of the food, as long as they were used well. Truly good seasonings required a combination of different types of seasonings. This was a secret. After returning to the inn, Nianbing carefully opened the door. Garamandi's dragon snoring showed no signs of weakening. Dragons were not only the strongest creatures on the continent, they were also the creatures that could sleep the best. She heaved a sigh of relief. Nianbing secretly prayed that Garamandis would sleep until she finished cooking for Ruyen tomorrow. She took out bags of seasonings from her space ring. She then took out the porcelain bottles she had just bought and marked them. She then began to skillfully mix the various seasonings. To Nianbing, there were only 2 things that could make him fully immerse himself in. One was the cultivation of magic, and the other was cooking. Cooking for Garamandis could be said to be a form of torture. It was completely not something he was willing to do. In that state, although Nianbing could still make delicious food, the quality of the food was much worse than his. Ever since leaving the peach blossom forest, Nianbing had never wanted to make a perfect meal as much as he did now. He was so focused on mixing the seasonings that he did not notice at all. Behind him, Garamandis was snoring as he opened his eyes to look at him. A strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and a few drops of dragon saliva dripped down. Mixing the seasonings took Nianbing a full 2 hours. Looking at the nearly 30 porcelain bottles in front of him, Nianbing put them one by one into his space ring. He used his magic to activate them. He tried to take out one porcelain bottle after another according to his purpose. He accurately grasped the position of the porcelain bottle in the space ring, as well as the mark on each porcelain bottle. He nodded in satisfaction. He fetched a basin of clear water and bought a clean towel from the inn. He took out his 4 peerless blades and wiped them clean little by little. He did not want to make a single mistake when he cooked for Ruyen tomorrow. After finishing everything, Nianbing sat cross-legged on the bed. Finally, he touched the warm heavenly flower tablet on his chest and entered a state of meditation. After evolving, he no longer needed to carefully restrain the absorbed magic element. Relying on the coordination of ice and fire, the 2 magic elements were absorbed at a faster speed than before. His mental strength was completely released. Very quickly, Nian Bing, who had abandoned all distracting thoughts, entered a state of deep meditation. His magic was advancing bit by bit. From the afternoon until the next morning, when the sunlight shone into the room, Nian Bing opened his eyes. At this time, even he did not notice that one of his azure blue eyes had become a scorching red, while the other was as clear as the blue sky. His magic moved with a thought, instantly flowing through his body. His whole body was filled with the aura of magic. It was so comfortable. Stretching his body, his gaze fell on Garamandes, who was beside him. Garamandes was still sleeping soundly. Everything was as beautiful as he had imagined. He quietly got out of bed. Although this inn was a bit simple, there was still a bathroom. Nian Bing happily took a bath. Getting rid of the last trace of irritation in his body, he took out the clothes that Xuejing had given him from the space ring. The white robe and silver coins were embroidered with a dragon pattern. There was not much embroidery, but it played the role of a finishing touch, making the whole set of clothes luxurious and elegant. The belt at the waist was very simple. It was also white, with a wide silver line on both sides. In the center of the belt there was a milky white jade. Stroking the soft white clothes, Nian Bing could not help but think of Xuejing, who he had driven away. "Jinger, are you okay now? I hope you don't blame me, I also had no choice. Although your temper is a bit big, it does not affect that you are a good girl. I hope you can find your other half and live a happy life." Putting on this silver dragon white robe, coupled with Nian Bing's originally handsome appearance, his high school temperament was even more obvious. His blonde hair and white robe outlined his slender figure, and a pair of deep blue eyes like the ocean faintly shone. Taking a deep breath, Nian Bing strode out and left the inn. Just as Nian Bing walked out of the inn, Garamandes, who had been sleeping in the room, sat up from the bed. "Good boy, you actually went to make walnut cakes for others without calling me." I'll also go and have a meal." "Nian Bing, oh Nian Bing, do you think the spiritual imprint I left on you only knows your location?" Walking on the streets, Nian Bing felt more and more awkward because the passers-by would take a few careful glances at him, especially the young girls. Those looks made him feel uneasy. Is the Ottoman Empire so open? It seemed that he should have worn coarse cotton clothes. What can he do in this situation? He could only quicken his pace and arrive at the Duke's mansion as soon as possible. Showing the sky token, the silver feather knights at the gate happily let him in. Under the guidance of a servant, he walked towards the Duke's study. Usually, when the Duke was not in court, he would take care of his affairs in the study. Arriving at the door, he could hear a clear conversation from inside. "Duke, this is the news we sisters have received for the past half a year. Do you have any other instructions?" Duke Bluefeather replied, It has been hard on you these past few days. There is no need to go back this time, I still need you to carry out other tasks. Rest in the mansion for now." Upon hearing this, the servant who had brought Nian Bing into the residence had already stepped forward to report. He shouted from outside the door, "Duke, Sir Nian Bing is here. Oh, let him in." Hearing the conversation from before, Nian Bing felt that the female voice was very familiar, as if he had heard it somewhere before, but it was not Yu Ruyan's voice. While he was puzzled, the servant gestured for him to enter. Pushing the door open, he saw the Duke of Bluefeather sitting behind the desk like he did yesterday. Yu Ruyan was standing beside him with a smile on her face. Two other women were standing respectfully in front of the desk. When they heard him enter, the two women subconsciously turned around to look at him. Nian Bing's eyes widened in surprise. "Ah, why are you here?" At the same time, they exclaimed, "Why are you here?" Chapter 73. Who were the two women that appeared in Duke Bluefeather's study to make Nian Bing so surprised? They were Ru Yi and Ru Meng, whom Nian Bing met in the brothel of Ice Orchid City a few months ago. After a moment of blankness, Nian Bing immediately understood the identity of the two sisters. He already knew that the sisters were spies sent by other countries to the Ice Moon Empire and the Ottoman Empire. Since they appeared in the residence of the head of the Ottoman Empire's military, it was obvious that they were the Duke of Blue Feather. As for the daughter of the benefactor, it should be Lan Chen who was not in the residence. Now, he was only missing a certain someone. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. The Duke of Blue Feather looked at the new Nian Bing in surprise and asked, "Do you know him?" Ru Yi coldly snorted, "Your Excellency, the strange young man I just told you about is him. The demon killer is also harmful to us because of him. Don't let him go and lure out the demon killer behind him." With that, she raised her hand and pulled out her sword. "Sister, he is not a bad person." Ru Meng quickly held her sister's hand. When she was reporting to the Duke, it was Ru Yi who was speaking. Ru Meng wanted to intervene several times but couldn't find a chance. Ru Yi angrily said, "How can a man in a brothel be a good person? Get out of the way. If you didn't let him go that day, maybe I wouldn't have been humiliated by the demon killer." Blue Feather said in a deep voice, "Ru Yi, stop. Don't be presumptuous." Ru Yi might not listen to others, but her respect for Blue Feather was completely from the heart. She quickly withdrew her sword and retreated to the side. "I'm sorry, Your Excellency." Blue Feather's eyes turned to Nianbing and frowned. "Young man. As a man, you can be romantic, but not vulgar. In the future, it's better not to go to brothels. I want to know what is the relationship between you and the demon killer mentioned by Ru Yi." Nianbing indifferently said, "I'm afraid what you want to know is not my relationship with him. I'm afraid you want to know the origin of the ice and fire magic. If someone else asked, I wouldn't say it, but you are Auntie Yu's husband. I don't want to hide it. Actually, I am the Masha envoy, which is also me. At that time, I only pretended to punish Miss Rui because she had indiscriminately tried to kill me. Frankly speaking, if it wasn't for Miss Ru Meng pleading for elder sister, perhaps she would have already died at my hands." Bluefeather's eyes lit up. "You are Demon Killer Envoy. I hope you can explain." Ru Yi and Ru Meng's eyes were also filled with surprise. Nian Bing puffed out her chest and said coldly, "I have nothing to explain on this matter, and I don't need to explain anything. Miss Rui is your subordinate, so it's only right that you believe her words." At this moment, he felt as if his heart was being pierced by needles. The pain was unbearable because he saw coldness and a trace of desolate killing intent in the eyes of his most respected aunt, Yu Ruyan. "Yes, although Auntie Yu has a very high position in my heart, but after all, I've only seen her twice in so many years. What right do I have to make her believe me?" Nian Bing smiled, but the deep sadness in his eyes made Yu Ruyan's heart tremble. Nian Bing's heart was very, very cold. Ever since he left the Peach Blossom Forest, he had always been vigilant and reserved towards everyone. Even Feng Nu was no exception. But after seeing Yu Ruyan yesterday, he finally let go. Losing his parents was the greatest pain in his heart. In his heart, Yu Ruyan was gentle and kind like a mother. Although he knew that it was normal for Yu Ruyan and Blue Feather to suspect him, the pain in his heart was still very strong. Taking a deep breath, he forced himself to calm down. He didn't even look at Ru Yi. "Auntie, no matter what you think of me, in my heart, you will always be someone I respect. I will leave and I will never come back again. But I hope you can give me a chance to cook a meal for you. I will leave immediately." As he spoke, he took off the heavenly jade token that had never left his neck for more than 7 years. When he walked past Yu Ruyan, he took a deep look at the red gem on the jade token. With a sigh, he placed the heavenly jade token on the table. Yu Ruyan indifferently asked, "Do you really have no explanation?" Nian Bing shook his head. "To you and the Duke, I am just an outsider. Our meeting that year could be said to be a kind of fate. Perhaps our fate has come to an end." Yu Ruyan's eyes were cold. "Nian Bing, in my life, I hate fickle men the most, especially men who inflict pain on women for their own desires. I watched Ru Yi grow up. She has a strong character and will never lie. Yes, I choose to believe her. You have a very good appearance, but if you use it to bully women, then you are worse than a dwarf with a congenital defect. You can go, I am not in the mood to eat right now, and I don't want to eat what you cook. Auntie, you really can't give me a chance to repay you? Nian Bing suddenly felt that his breathing was a little difficult, and his eyes were a little blurred. Yu Ruyan was just about to speak when the Duke of Blue Feather spoke up. Ruyan, let him do it. I think this child is not that kind of person. Maybe it was just a slip of the tongue. Yu Ruyan looked at her husband, then looked at Nian Bing. The coldness in her eyes faded a little. She snorted and didn't speak again. Nian Bing's expression was calm as she bowed to the Duke. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Can I trouble you to set up a stove in the martial arts field outside? If it is in the kitchen, it will not be easy to use. Just get a big table to put the food. I have already prepared the other ingredients and cabinet. Blue Feather nodded. Good, Rui, you go prepare according to Nian Bing's instructions. We will go to the martial arts field together. Rui nodded and gave Nian Bing a cold look before leaving the study. Nian Bing followed behind her. He didn't say anything to Rui. At this time, he didn't want to say anything. Besides, Rui is also a pitiful person. Seeing Nian Bing leave, Ru Meng was a little anxious. Duke, madam, you have all misunderstood. In fact, Nian Bing is not that kind of person. Blue Feather and Yu Ruyan were stunned at the same time. Yu Ruyan frowned. You mean Rui was lying to us just now? Ru Meng's whole body stiffened. No, actually, sister is just a little extreme. Then she told the story from beginning to end according to her own opinion. After hearing Ru Meng's words, Blue Feather frowned. No. From what I know, although Rui has a strong temperament, she is still a person who understands the big picture. Otherwise, I wouldn't let her be in charge of the Northern Intelligence System. I really can't believe that her personality will change so much. Ru Meng, are you hiding something from me? What happened to Rui? His wisdom has already seen some flaws. A person's personality change is definitely not without reason. Ru Meng knelt on the ground with a plop. Duke, madam, I can't say. This matter concerns sister's reputation. Sister is already very pitiful. Please don't pursue it, okay? Yu Ruyan's whole body trembled, and her eyes flashed. I understand, so it was him. I was wondering why Rui changed a lot in these 2 years, and even took the initiative to ask for a transfer. Humph, I won't forgive that kid. Ru Meng was shocked and hurriedly said, Madam, in fact, this matter can't be completely blamed on Brother Lon Soon. He also has his own difficulties, emotional matters. Just as she said this, she suddenly noticed the change in Yu Ruyan's eyes. Only then did she realize that she was fooled. Madam, Yu Ruyan's body flashed with a layer of silver light. Lon Sun, it's actually Lon Sun. Good, you really hid it from me. Ru Meng, tell me everything you know. Do you know that your sister treated Nian Bing's life like grass? If you don't tell me, I will punish her. As the wife of the Duke of Blue Feather, Yu Ruyan was not comparable to a little girl like Ru Meng. Ru Meng finally understood the look in Nian Bing's eyes just now, and her heart was filled with regret. However, she urgently needed to know what had happened to Rui. Arriving at the training grounds, Nian Bing walked to a shady area and stood alone. Today, no one was practicing martial arts here, and the training grounds were empty. Only the servants of the Duke's mansion would occasionally pass by. He suddenly recalled what Cha Ji had said to him when he was teaching him culinary skills. At that time, Cha Ji had said that there was a very important thing that an ordinary chef had to pay attention to during the process of cooking, and that was to control their own emotions. When cooking, they should try their best not to let their emotions affect their culinary skills, so that they could fully display their own skills. However, when a chef's skills reached the pinnacle, it was the exact opposite when it came to emotions. Instead of controlling them, one had to fully express their emotions and use their emotions to influence the food they made. For a top-notch chef, food made with different emotions could taste different even if it was the same dish. Emotions were what a top-notch chef needed to learn the most. Right now, his heart was filled with sorrow. What kind of dish could he make? He didn't know, and he didn't know either. He took a deep breath and let out a long sigh. Anyway, after this meal, his relationship with Urian would come to an end, and they would have nothing to do with each other in the future. "Brother, I don't think I've seen you before." A gentle voice sounded from behind him. Nian Bing's whole body shook. He was so careless that he didn't even notice that someone had approached him. He was too careless. Turning around, he saw a young man wearing a blue warrior's uniform with a long sword hanging from his waist. This person was very handsome, and his body exuded an exuberant heroic spirit. It was easy to see that he was at least a great swordsman or even a martial artist. "Hello, I've just arrived at the Duke's mansion." Nian Bing's reply was calm and polite. When the blue-clothed warrior saw Nian Bing's appearance, his eyes couldn't help but flash with surprise. He had always prided himself on his appearance, but compared to the blonde-haired, silver-clothed youth in front of him, he paled in comparison. "Brother, you're so charming. My name is Lan Sun, and I'm the Duke's bodyguard. How may I address you? Why have you come to the Duke's mansion?" Nian Bing smiled calmly and said, "My name is Nian Bing, and I'm the chef who came to cook for the Duke and Duchess." "Chef?" Lan Sun's eyes shone with surprise. He sized up Nian Bing and asked with a strange expression, "You're a chef?" Nian Bing smiled and said, "What, don't I look like one? I'll prove it in a moment." Just as he said this, Ru Yi had already brought her people to the practice field. She was instructing the servants to set up the stove. When she raised her head, she inadvertently saw Nian Bing and Lan Sun together. A layer of frost appeared on her face as she cursed in a low voice. Birds of a feather flocked together. Nian Bing wasn't far from the center of the practice field. In addition, after eating so many iron thread snake gallbladders, his hearing and eyesight had greatly improved. When he heard this, he couldn't help but look at Lan Sun. At this time, Lan Sun's expression changed. His black eyes revealed a complicated expression. "You're the man who let Miss Ru Yi down?" Nian Bing's voice was even colder. His relationship with Urian had become so tense because of what Ru Yi had said to the Duke. And Ru Yi's change was because of that heartless man. Lan Sun's expression changed. "What are you saying? I've never let Ru Yi down. She was the one who insisted on leaving me. It seems like you know quite a lot." Nian Bing was a little surprised. "You've never let Ru Yi down? Then why did I hear that you let her down for an even prettier girl?" Lan Sun's eyes revealed a trace of bitterness. "I don't know what Ru Yi said to you, but my feelings for Ru Yi are absolutely true. Sigh, Ru Yi is good at everything, but she's too stubborn." Nian Bing continued to ask, "Since you were together with Ru Yi back then, why did you try to court another girl?" Lan Sun frowned. "Court her? It seems that Ru Yi still doesn't believe me." "That's right, I used to like Miss Chen, but when I was at my lowest point, Ru Yi walked into my world. It was her meticulous care that helped me recover from my heartbreak. Only then did I realize that she was the most suitable woman for me. So, we were together. I truly loved her. At the same time, I recognized my position. Even if we don't talk about status, just her character and appearance were far from my match. So, I let go of my past feelings long ago. After Miss Chen returned from her master's residence, I could already see her as a younger sister. The Duke raised us orphans since we were young. As his bodyguard, I was concerned about Miss Chen's daily life and made all kinds of arrangements for her. What was wrong with that? In the past, I was the one who did all the work. But Ru Yi didn't understand. She thought that my feelings for Miss Chen had rekindled, and that I was interested in her. No matter how I explained, she wouldn't listen. Every day, she would pester me and argue with me. I am a man, and I still have a lot of things to do. One day, I was really annoyed by her pestering, so I said a few hurtful words to her. As a result, the next day, she asked the Duke for a transfer and refused to talk to me anymore. Sigh, I was too impulsive back then. Although Ru-yi is a girl, she's very stubborn. I tried all kinds of ways to get close to her, but she was always like an iceberg. Nian Bing stared at Lan Sun with wide eyes. She couldn't be so unlucky, right? She actually became the victim of a misunderstanding. Brother Lan, when you hurt Miss Ru-yi, did you tell her that you only had lust for her? That Miss Ru-yi was only a substitute for Miss Chen, and that you only loved Miss Chen? Lan Sun's eyes widened. That can't be. You even know this. Tell me, what's your relationship with Ru-yi? Seeing Lan Sun's unkind expression, Nian Bing hurriedly said, I have nothing to do with Miss Ru-yi. Miss Ru Meng told me all this. Brother Lan, how could you say that back then? Don't you know how much it hurts a girl? Lan Sun sighed in relief. Do you think I wanted to say that? But Ru-yi's parents died when she was young. She's too self-conscious. She likes to think the worst of everything. Ever since we started fighting, she would ask me every day if I was with her because she slept with me. She would ask me if I still loved Miss Chen, and if I saw her as a substitute. Think about it. I work so much every day, and she pesters me every day. How can I stand it? That day I was blinded by anger, so I went along with her and said those words out of anger. Now Nian Bing understood everything. So Lan Sun wasn't a heartless person. The real problem was Ru-yi. She patted Lan Sun's shoulder and said, Then do you still like Ru-yi? Lan Sun said bitterly, If I didn't like her, would I be in so much pain? As the saying goes, a day together as husband and wife means endless devotion for the rest of your life. We've already done it as husband and wife. I truly love her. How can I not worry about her? Nian Bing nodded and said, Since you truly love her, then take out your courage. As the saying goes, the deeper the love, the deeper the hatred. The fact that Ru-yi still hates you proves that she can't forget you. Since that's the case, you have a lot of opportunities. It all depends on whether you can grasp them. She's had low self-esteem since she was young. She needs your patience to gradually change. I think you two must have had too little interaction in the past. That's why there's a crisis of distrust. You're a man. Take the initiative. Lan Sun nodded and smiled. I think so too. This time, Ru-yi finally came back. I've already decided that no matter what, I'm going to make her stay this time. Brother, although this is the first time we've met, we hit it off very well. Thank you for your help. Sigh, but now I don't know what's the best time to get close to her. Nian Bing smiled and shook her head. Brother Lan, you're welcome. Actually, it's not hard to find the right time. If you want Ru-yi to change her mind, the first thing you need to do is get the support of the Duke and Duchess. I can tell that they're the people Ru-yi respects the most. Since you've decided to be with Ru-yi, why don't you start with the Duke and Duchess? Hearing Nian Bing's words, Lan Sun's eyes lit up. He slapped his thigh. That's right. Why didn't I think of that? Nian Bing, you've really woken me up from my daze. All right, I'll go ask the Duke for her hand in marriage. As long as the Duke agrees to our marriage, everything will be much easier. With that, he turned to leave. What's the rush? Nian Bing grabbed Lan Sun. The Duke and Duchess will be here soon to taste my cooking. Isn't it better if you ask for her hand in front of Ru-yi? It'll show your sincerity. Look, they're here. At that moment, Duke Bluefeather, Yu Ruyan and Ru Meng arrived at the training grounds from the rear courtyard. Bluefeather and Yu Ruyan's expressions were unusually gloomy. Ru Meng, on the other hand, had her head lowered. She looked troubled. Nian Bing didn't know that her misunderstanding had been cleared up. When she saw their expressions, her heart sank. She nudged Lan Sun. What are you waiting for? Lan Sun only had Ru-yi on his mind. He didn't notice the Duke and Duchess Bluefeather's expressions. When Nian Bing nudged him, he hurried over to them. Yu Ruyan had a belly full of anger, but she had nowhere to vent it. She felt someone approaching, and when she looked over, she saw that it was Lan Sun, whom she had been looking for. She was about to speak when Lan Sun knelt on the ground. Lord Duke, Duchess, Lan Sun has something to report. Lan Yu raised his hand to stop Yu Ruyan, who was about to explode, and said indifferently, "What is it? Just say it." Lan Sun swallowed his saliva and glanced at Ru Yi. "Your Excellency Duke, Lan Sun has been taught by you and your wife. That's how I am today. Although Lan Sun knows I'm not worthy, I've always treated you as my father. There's something I haven't reported to you and your wife. Actually, 3 years ago I became friends with Ru Yi. I hope that your Excellency Duke and your wife can allow me to take Ru Yi as my wife. My feelings for Ru Yi are sincere." Lan Sun respectfully kowtowed 3 times. Lan Yu and Yu Ruyan's eyes, which were originally filled with anger, were instantly filled with shock. Ru Meng, who had her head lowered, raised her head and looked at Lan Sun, who was kneeling on the ground, in astonishment. None of them had thought that Lan Sun would say such a thing at this moment. Rui, who was standing not far away, stiffened and her gaze instantly became lifeless. Lan Yu's state of mind was the most stable. He calmly asked, "You want to marry Rui?" Lan Sun nodded firmly. "Your Excellency Duke, please grant my wish." Blue Feather frowned. "As far as I know, your relationship with Ru Yi isn't as simple as just being friends. Ru Yi, come here." Ru Yi snapped out of her daze. Her beautiful eyes revealed a complicated expression. She glanced at Lan Sun and quickly walked over to Blue Feather. She respectfully said, "Your Excellency Duke, the kitchen table and stove are ready to be used at any time." Although she spoke of the task Blue Feather had given her, her voice was trembling uncontrollably. Blue Feather nodded. He turned to Nian Bing and smiled. "Little brother, please wait for a moment. I have some private matters to attend to." Nian Bing nodded. "Your Excellency Duke, there's no need to be so polite. You can talk about it. I'll start cooking now." He walked over to the kitchen table. Yu Ruyan wanted to say something, but when she saw Lan Sun and Ru Yi, she held back. She gave her husband a look, indicating for him to get straight to the point. Blue Feather's voice deepened. "Lan Sun, I want to hear your explanation of your relationship with Ru Yi." Ru Yi glared at her sister. "Your Excellency Duke, there's no need to explain anything. I have no relationship with Lan Sun. I will never marry him. Ru Yi is willing to serve your Excellency Duke and Madam for the rest of my life. I will never marry. Please grant my wish." Her tone was resolute. Her voice was so cold that it seemed to freeze the surrounding air. Lan Sun's heart sank. He knew Ru Yi was stubborn, but he didn't expect her stubbornness to be even harder to understand after 2 years. Lan Yu smiled, and his voice became much gentler. "Silly girl, I raised you and Lan Sun since you were young. Lan Sun was right. I have always treated you as my own children. To me, you are not my subordinates, but my family. Child, do you think a father would be willing to watch his daughter grow old alone for the rest of her life? No, of course not. If that happened, it would be unbearable for a father. Even if you don't want to marry Lan Sun, you don't have to be so resolute. I'll find you a good husband in the future." Hearing Bluefeather's kind words, Ru Yi's eyes reddened. She choked. "Thank you, Your Excellency Duke." Bluefeather stopped Ru Yi from speaking. He turned to Lan Sun and said coldly, "You don't need to explain now. I just want to hear about your relationship with Ru Yi. I believe you won't lie to me." Lan Sun was still kneeling. Without Bluefeather's permission, he would never stand up. He respectfully said, "Your Excellency Duke, Ru Yi and I have been friends since 3 years ago. I'm not afraid you'll laugh at me. Originally, I liked Miss Chin Chin. Although I knew I wasn't worthy, my subconscious had always wanted a chance. So I've always tried my best." Bluefeather nodded. "We all know how much you care for Chin Chin. There's no such thing as whether you're worthy or not. If Chin Chin really likes you, I won't stop her. However, you know Chin Chin's situation. Even Ruyan and I are worried about her life. It's hard to say what will happen in the future." Speaking until here, the Duke's face had a hint of sadness. Yu Ruyan helplessly shook her head. Whenever she thought of her daughter, she felt a little regretful. If it weren't for those people chasing after her, she wouldn't have given her daughter to that person as a disciple. Bluefeather continued. But you should have felt it. Chun has always treated you as an older brother. Although she's usually cold, she's the closest to you in the family. Lan Sun said, Your Excellency Duke, later on, I understood this problem. That day, Miss Chun told me the same thing. She said she's always treated me as an older brother. She also said she can't easily marry a man because of special reasons. Although her voice was cold, I could feel the sincerity in her heart. At that time, I felt like I was freed from the shackles of love. It was also from that moment on that I truly gave up on pursuing Miss Chun. Miss Chun was gone. The hope in my heart for so many years disappeared in a single day. Although I felt relieved, I was still filled with disappointment. It was at that time that Ru-yi walked into my world. She cared for me, accompanied me, and sat silently with me for an entire night. That night we sat in silence. Although she didn't say anything, I could feel the emotions in her heart. Only then did I realize that the most suitable person for me was by my side. My heart was moved. My feelings for Miss Chun turned into that of a sibling. I faced my feelings for Ru-yi and began to pursue her. Your Excellency Duke, Ru-yi can't marry anyone else. That's because we've already done the deed as husband and wife. Nian Bing had already walked to the kitchen table and was preparing to move. When she heard Lan Sun's explanation, she couldn't help but stop. She wanted to hear his explanation. As a bystander, he could see that Duke Bluefeather and Yu Ruyan already knew something. Ru Meng's expression was strange. It was very likely that she told them about what happened that day. As for their anger, it was clear that it was directed at Lan Sun. It seems that they already knew about Ru-yi and Lan Sun from Ru Meng. Lan Sun's luck was pretty good. Just as Duke Bluefeather was about to denounce him, he proposed marriage. Perhaps things will take a turn for the better. Right now, the key is still Ru-yi. But looking at her frozen expression, it won't be easy to change her mind. Lan Sun, let's see what you can do. When Lan Sun said that he and Ru-yi had already done the deed as husband and wife, even though Duke Bluefeather and Yu Ruyan already knew, they couldn't help but turn pale. Lan Sun stole a glance at Ru-yi. He saw that her expression didn't change because of what he said. She continued to coldly watch everything as if she didn't hear him at all. Lan Sun sighed inwardly. He then repeated what he said to Nian Bing. He added even more details. As he narrated, his emotions were gradually influenced by his word. When he talked about the misunderstanding between him and Ru-yi, Ru-yi's expression finally changed. The ice on her face turned into a volcanic eruption. She suddenly became incomparably agitated. Nonsense. Back then, you clearly said that you've always treated me as a replacement. Now, you're saying that you're just saying that out of anger. You're clearly trying to use flowery words to deceive the Duke and Madam. Scram. I don't want to see you and I definitely won't marry you. Chapter 74. Lan Sun's expression changed. Rui, can't you calm down and think about it? I've waited for you for 2 years, hoping that you'd calm down. But you're still so stubborn. Do you think it's good for you to continue like this? Why can't you be more rational? The Rui I knew wasn't like this. Rui, we grew up together. Although I don't dare say that I'm a gentleman, I've never lied to the Duke. I can swear in front of you that I'm speaking the truth. Otherwise, may the heavens and earth destroy me. Ru-yi was stunned for a moment, but the anger in her eyes did not subside at all. Then what do you mean today? Anyway, I have nothing to do with you. You proposed to the Duke today. Aren't you deliberately insulting me? Lan Sun sighed. Rui, why would I think that? You've always held an important place in my heart. You're my lover. For 2 years, you were away on a mission. There wasn't a day when I didn't think of you. I proposed to the Duke because I love you. What do I have to do to make you believe that I'm sincere? Rui's heart trembled. She looked at Lan Sun's handsome and sincere face, and the anger on her face gradually disappeared. She stared at him blankly. She couldn't believe that it was all a misunderstanding. Lan Yu spoke up. Enough. You two don't have to say any more. I understand. No matter what, it's Lan Sun's fault for using words to hurt Rui. Lan Sun, you've been with me for so many years. You know my temper. Rui, you've been wronged. Don't worry, I'll avenge you. How about this? Rui, from now on, I'll take you and Ru Meng as my goddaughters. Lan Sun hurt my daughter, so he must pay the price. Lan Sun, you don't have to explain anything. Rui went to the border for you for 2 years and suffered so much. She doesn't have any feelings for you now, but the hurt you've caused her can never be erased. I don't want to say anything else. You can end it yourself. What? 3 people cried out. One was Rui. The other 2 were Yu Ruyan and Yen Bing. Yu Ruyan said anxiously, Brother Yu, you can't blame Lan Sun for this. He's been with you for so many years. Don't you know his temperament? How could you decide to punish him so hastily? Brother Yu. Yen Bing walked over to Lan Sun's side. He was the one who advised Lan Sun to propose marriage to Bluefeather Duke. How could he not be anxious? Yes, Duke, even if Lan Sun was in the wrong, it shouldn't be to the point of death, right? How can you disregard human life like that? Duke Bluefeather's rash decision caused his impression of the Duke to plummet. Even his good impression of the Duke's mansion had disappeared. Ru Yen, I can listen to you on other matters, but not this one. Duke Bluefeather's expression turned frosty. I can listen to you on other matters, but not this one. Do you think Lan Sun is right? Indeed, it was a misunderstanding. But, as a man, if he knew it was a misunderstanding but did not explain it to Rui, what did that mean? This showed that he had the intention to play with Rui and that he placed his dignity above all else. If he had explained it to Rui earlier and been patient with her, would she have suffered for the past 2 years? Rui is already pitiful enough. Now that she's been hurt like this, how can I tolerate this? We have wronged you before, but this is an internal matter of the Duke's mansion. Please don't interfere. Lan Sun, do it. Duke Bluefeather's tone was extremely resolute, but Nian Bing was surprised to find that there was a hint of a smile in his eyes. Was he hallucinating? No, it was definitely not an illusion. He really was smiling. Nian Bing's mind spun rapidly. In a flash, she understood what was going on. Glancing at Duke Bluefeather, she sighed and took a step back. Lan Sun raised his head to look at Bluefeather, then at Rui. His expression was unusually calm as he respectfully said, Your lordship, Lan Sun was raised by you. My life is yours to begin with. Lan Sun will not disobey your orders. I only have one last request before I die. I hope you can agree to it. Lan Sun knelt on the ground. His courage to face death with equanimity impressed Nian Bing. Speak, Duke Bluefeather said indifferently. Since you've been with me for so many years, I'll do my best to help you. Lan Sun did not panic at the prospect of losing his life. When he heard Duke Bluefeather's agreement, his face lit up. Your lordship, I truly do love Rui. You're right. I can't let go of my pride, which led to Rui's suffering over the past 2 years. It cast a shadow in her heart that she can't forget. Everything is my fault. I should be punished. My last request is that you take good care of Rui and find a good husband for her. Someone who can love and care for her. That way, even if I die, I can rest in peace. Your lordship, madam, please take care of yourselves. Lan Sun is gone. Even if I'm in hell, I'll pray for your safety. Lan Sun's sword left its scabbard in a flash of cold light. He didn't hesitate in the slightest as he gripped the hilt with both hands and brought it down on his neck with all his might. Under the sunlight, the sword glinted with a blinding light. Although Lan Sun didn't use his fighting aura, anyone could see that he was determined to die. Yu Ruyan closed her eyes as tears streamed down her cheeks. Lan Sun was usually obedient to her, but if he was serious, Yu Ruyan wouldn't object. She had watched Lan Sun grow up. Now that he was about to die, she couldn't bear it any longer. She raised her right hand, wanting to use her fighting aura to save him. To her, there wasn't much difference whether her eyes were open or closed. However, just as she was about to raise her hand, Duke Bluefeather grabbed it with both hands. Urian tried to struggle but gave up immediately because she knew she didn't have enough time. Her heart throbbed. It was over. No! A demonic cry rang out. Urian opened her eyes to see Rui clutching Lan Sun's hand tightly. Her eyes were filled with grief. No! Don't die! Lan Sun was dejected. Rui, why do you have to do this? You should understand that to us, every word of the Grand Duke is an order. Don't stop me. Promise me that you'll live well. Rui ignored Lan Sun. She gripped his hand with all her might and turned to Duke Bluefeather. Duke Bluefeather, oh, no. Godfather, please let Lan Sun go. Bluefeather's voice was cold. Rui, he hurt you so deeply. How can he let you go? You're my daughter. No one can bully you. Get out of the way. Godfather will find you a good husband in the future. Rui shook her head vigorously, and her tears scattered in all directions. No. You're right. No. Godfather, I don't want anyone else. I only want Lan Sun. Please let him go. He's the only one I love in this life. Bluefeather's eyes flashed with a hint of a smile. Rui was too emotional to notice, and Lan Sun was too depressed to take his own life. Rui, didn't you say you don't love him anymore? You just said you'd never marry him. You should know that military orders are like mountains. I've already given the order. I can't take it back so easily. Rui knelt beside Bluefeather and sobbed. Godfather, I said those words out of anger. I've always loved Lan Sun. I've thought it through. It's all my fault. I was too extreme. If I hadn't been jealous, if I hadn't pressured Lan Sun, he wouldn't have said those words out of anger. Lan Sun isn't in the wrong. I'm the one in the wrong. Godfather, if you want to punish someone, punish me. I beg you, don't kill Lan Sun. He's a good person. He's been so loyal to you. Even if he hasn't done anything, he's done some hard work. I beg you. Bluefeather sighed. But the order has already been given. It can't be changed so easily. If you are willing to marry him, I will spare his life for the sake of him being my adopted son-in-law. Otherwise, he has no reason to continue to live. You are right. Rui, are you willing to marry Lan Sun? I'm willing. Godfather, I'm willing to marry him. Please don't kill him. Rui blurted out without thinking. Lan Sun loosened his grip on the sword. The sword fell to the ground with a clang. Urian looked at her husband in shock. Bluefeather laughed. That's right. It's good to be harmonious. You children only know how to make me worry. Now, Lan Sun, I'll betroth my precious daughter, Rui, to you. You have to take good care of her and love her. If you dare to bully her again, don't blame me for being rude. Although Lan Sun was willing to die for the Duke, even ants would drag out their lives, let alone humans. It would be best if he didn't die. Furthermore, he was able to reconcile with Rui. Everything was so wonderful. He couldn't believe that he had gone from great sorrow to great joy. However, his mind was still clear. He quickly took Rui's hand and bowed to Bluefeather. The Duke, who had been so dignified just a moment ago, suddenly let out a cry. Both Lan Sun and Rui jumped up from the ground in fright. However, they saw Urian grabbing Bluefeather's ear. She said unkindly, "All right, Bluefeather. You were acting just now, weren't you? You even tricked me. Tell me, what should I do if you made me cry so much?" "Gentle, Urian. Gentle. I know I was wrong. Listen to me. If I didn't act just now, how could I make Rui reveal her true feelings? Do you think I'd be willing to kill Lan Sun? Although both of them are in the wrong, Lan Sun is still a man. Letting him suffer a little in exchange for a beautiful wife is too good for him." Only then did Lan Sun and Rui react. They looked at each other and couldn't help but blush. They knelt on the ground again and said respectfully, "Thank you, Duke. Yu Ruyan let go of Bluefeather's hand. Are you still calling me Duke? You'll have to call me Godfather and Godmother from now on. I'm really happy that you two children can be together. Rise. Nian Bing, who was standing behind Lan Sun, felt a trace of envy. If only she could marry Feng Nu with the help of her elders. How wonderful would that be? Duke Bluefeather was indeed the most powerful person in the Ottoman Empire's military. No one could compare to his ability to control and correct the situation. If she hadn't seen through his eyes, she would have been fooled as well. His acting skills were truly superb. Rui and Lan Sun stood up. Rui shook off Lan Sun's hand. At this point, the knot in his heart had been untied. The coldness in his eyes had turned into a warm spring. He turned to Nianbing and said, Mr. Nian, I'm sorry. I was too impulsive last time. I didn't understand the situation clearly and tried to kill you. Please forgive me. Actually, I can tell that you're not that kind of person. You just didn't want to admit defeat. I'm sorry. Nianbing smiled and said, although it feels bad to be wronged, it's all in the past. Let's forget about it. Congratulations to Miss Rui and brother Lan Sun on your marriage. I don't have anything valuable on me. Today, I'm going to cook a meal for Auntie Yu. Come and have a taste. It'll be a congratulatory gift from me. Using a meal as a congratulatory gift was too cheap for ordinary people. No one present thought much of it. They only took it as Nianbing's goodwill. However, they didn't know that a meal from Nianbing would be worth more than 1,000 gold taels in the near future. Ice and Fire chef's cooking wasn't something that just anyone could taste. Yu Ruyan walked to Nianbing's side and said apologetically, Nianbing, I've wronged you. It's Auntie's fault. Can you forgive Auntie? Nianbing shook her head and smiled. Auntie, you didn't do anything wrong. After all, we've only met twice. If it were me, I would also believe my own people. Auntie, are you still willing to give me the heavenly flower token? Facing this beautiful auntie, Nianbing didn't have any intention of blaming her. At this moment, he was only thinking, what's wrong with a mother blaming her child? Of course. Yu Ruyan took out the heavenly flower token and put it around Nianbing's neck again. The heavenly flower token carried Yu Ruyan's body temperature. Ling Nianbing's body and heart felt very comfortable. Auntie, I'll cook for you now. It's about time for lunch. Please sit at the table for a while. I'll try to hurry. As she spoke, she walked towards the stove. Yu Ruyan and Lan Yu looked at each other and smiled. They were also very curious. If Nianbing insisted on cooking for them, what could the space make? The two of them led Lan Sun and the others to the table next to the stove and sat down. Rui had prepared 10 chairs earlier, so there were more than enough to spare. Lan Yu held Yu Ruyan's hand while Lan Sun held Rui's hand. The 5 people's gazes were all focused on Nianbing. Taking a deep breath, Nianbing calmed himself down. At this moment, his heart was abnormally calm. With a wave of his right hand, 9 cucumbers appeared from his spatial ring and were placed on the chopping board. For today's meal, Nianbing had not only prepared the condiments, but he had also prepared the utensils to hold the dishes. A large plate with a diameter of 1 meter appeared along with 9 cucumbers. Nianbing held the plate in his left hand, and with a wave of his right hand, the proud heaven blade, which was like a pool of autumn water, appeared in his palm with the aura of the wind. He smiled at the people in front of the stove and said, Auntie Yu, I'm sure all of you are thirsty. My first dish is the embodiment of ice. It's also one of my best ice dishes in the Ice and Fire 9 Heavens cuisine. 9 pure divine dragon ice cloud hidden. The proud heaven blade stuck close to the table and gently lifted the 9 cucumbers at the same time. Nianbing placed the large plate with a diameter of 1 meter on the table. The 9 cucumbers fell to the ground with the same distance between them. The cucumbers were less than a foot long, so the 9 cucumbers looked a bit out of place on the meter-wide plate. Nianbing picked up a cucumber with lightning speed. Just as he was about to move the proud heaven blade in his right hand, the sound of hurried footsteps broke his concentration. A silver feather knight rushed in. Report. The knight knelt on one knee, diverting the attention of Duke Lan Yu and the others from Nian Bing's dish. Lan Yu said, "Speak." "Duke Lan Yu, there are 4 people outside. They claim to be acquaintances of Madame. They want to see her." "Oh." Lan Yu was a bit surprised. Normally, people rarely came to see his wife. "What kind of people are they? What are their characteristics?" The knight replied respectfully, 4 people, 2 men and 2 women. The 2 women were very young, and both of them were extremely beautiful. The 2 men were old men, and they looked to be in their 70s or 80s. What they had in common was their clothes. They were all dressed in red, and they looked like flames. The one who spoke was one of the women, and they should all be warriors. Each of them is carrying a long sword. I can't tell their level. But they shouldn't be weak. They have a dignified bearing. As expected of a silver feather knight, his answer was concise and described the basic characteristics of the other party. Yurian's expression changed, and she said to Nian Bing, "Looks like it wasn't easy to eat your meal. What's supposed to be here is finally here. Nian Bing, go to the back and rest. Auntie needs to take care of something." Duke Lan Yu's expression changed at the same time. "Ruyan, you mean to say that there are people coming from that side?" Ruyan's eyes flashed with cold light. "Yes, it's not necessarily them. Otherwise, which 70 or 80-year-old man would wear red? 4 people. I'll have to see who it is. Back then, all of our daughters were executed by them. It's time to settle the score. Brother Yu, let's have our people withdraw." Lan Yu nodded and said to the knight, "Bring those 4 people in at the same time. Pass down my orders. Without my permission, no matter what happens in the arena, no one is to disturb us." "Yes, Your Grace," the knight replied and got up to leave. Lan Yu turned to Lan Sun and Rui. "You're my children. You're not outsiders. It's time for you to see what the peak of a warrior is like. You and Nian Bing, back to the wall. Remember, no matter what happens, don't make a move. Understand?" Lan Sun and the others followed Lan Yu's orders unconditionally. Lan Sun pulled Nian Bing, who was still wielding the proud heaven blade, to the side of the courtyard. Nian Bing faintly sensed that something was about to happen. Before retreating to the side, he didn't forget to put away his plate and cucumber. He was determined to cook for Ruyan to repay her kindness. He wouldn't leave until he was done. The door opened, and a moment later, under the lead of the 4 silver feather knights, 4 people in red walked in. Just as the previous night had said, these 4 wore red shirts and pants. They also carried long swords on their back. 2 old men walked in front. Both of them were tall and thin. Their white hair contrasted with their red clothes, making for a strange sight. Their bodies were straight, and an invisible aura emanated from them. One didn't need to look carefully to see that they were extraordinary. The 2 of them looked 80% similar. They seemed to be brothers. Their cold eyes locked onto Ruyan as soon as they walked in. Behind the 2 old men, there were 2 young girls. The girl on the left had a head of long green hair, which complemented her red warrior outfit. She was very eye-catching. Although the red and green colors didn't match well, this girl had a different kind of charm. In addition to her dark green eyes, her beautiful face was like a gentle breeze. Her slender figure was very well proportioned, and her gait was very light. Her green hair and red clothes left a deep impression on others. Although she was very beautiful, she paled in comparison to the girl on the right. The girl on the right looked younger. Her pink hair was neatly combed behind her back, and in the middle of her long hair was tied with a blue hairband. Her blue eyes were as deep as the blue sky, and her slender figure was almost flawless. Among the people present, only Ruyan could barely compare to her. Ruyan had a bit more charm, but she lacked the youthful aura. After the 4 silver feather knights brought the 4 red-clothed people into the courtyard, they quietly retreated. Ruyan took a few steps forward, and her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. Feng knew. Nian Bing's pleasantly surprised voice broke the austere atmosphere in the martial arts field. The pink-haired girl in red clothes trembled. When she saw Nian Bing, she was so excited that her body flashed, and with a speed that was almost indiscernible to the naked eye, she rushed in front of Nian Bing. This girl was Feng Nu, who had just left the dragon cave not long ago. Nian Bing, is it really you, Nian Bing? Her originally calm face was already wet with tears. Her voice was choked with sobs, and her hands were tightly holding Nian Bing's hands. Her body was slightly trembling because of excitement. Feng Nu was excited, but how could Nian Bing not be? At this moment, there was no room for anyone else in his eyes. He had forgotten everything. He suddenly opened his arms and hugged Feng Nu tightly. That moving body was slightly trembling in his embrace. At this moment, Nian Bing felt that his heart was so full. There was only Feng Nu in his heart, and he couldn't suppress his emotions. He knew that in this world, Feng Nu was the first person he fell in love with. If it could be said that his feelings for the dragon spirit still contained pity, then his feelings for the Phoenix Maiden were pure love. Love without any reason. After the pain of being separated by life and death, whether it was Nian Bing or Feng Nu, both of them clearly saw each other. In their hearts, each other's silhouettes had become clearer and clearer. They hugged each other tightly, feeling each other's heartbeat. Ru Yen said coldly, "It seems that I'm not the only precedent for the Feng people. Elder Feng Su, Elder Feng Kong, your ability to control your people seems to be getting worse and worse." On the left, the elder Yu Rian called Feng Su's eyes glowed brightly. It was a solid red light. "Feng Nu, what are you doing? Who is he?" Feng Nu's entire body shook. Only then did she remember where she was. She pushed Nian Bing away and looked back at Feng Su. "First Elder, Nian Bing is a friend of mine. Please listen to me." Feng Su's eyes burned. "Feng Nu, you should remember the rules of the clan. I don't need your explanation. Do it, kill him." "Dang, nothing happened." Yu Ruyan yelled, "Feng Su, don't forget that this isn't Feng Chi Mountain. It's my husband's Duke Manor. If you dare to kill people here, don't blame me for being rude to the Feng people." Feng Su said coldly, "Little Yen, when your father passed away, he gave you to us to raise. We raised you and taught you the secret arts of the Feng people. However, you betrayed the faith of the Feng people and married a human. Today, let alone that brat, even you and your husband won't be spared. Feng Nu, aren't you going to do it?" From the moment Feng Nu left his arms, Nian Bing had already woken up. He carefully observed the situation in the arena and listened to the conversation between Yu Rian and Feng Su. He immediately understood many things. His respected aunt Yu Rian was clearly from the Feng people like Feng Nu. She left the Feng people because of Duke Bluefeather. And now, the elder of the Feng people was here to cause trouble for her. That elder Feng Su actually wanted Feng Nu to kill him. How laughable. He smiled and looked at Feng Nu. "Will you kill me?" Feng Nu's expression changed. She suddenly flashed and appeared in front of Nian Bing. She pressed her palm against Nian Bing's chest. Nian Bing felt a scorching current wrap around his body. He flew into the air. At the same time, Feng Nu's voice sounded in his ears. "Hurry up and play dead. Otherwise, the elder won't let you go. The Feng people aren't like the Fire Dragon clan. Don't come out again." Nian Bing's body slammed into the wall of the courtyard, and his body slowly slid down. At the moment of impact, the scorching hot air rushed out from his back and dissipated the impact like a cushion, leaving Nian Bing unharmed. Although Nian Bing was shocked, he was smart enough to follow Feng Nu's instructions. After sliding to the ground, he immediately closed his eyes and remained motionless. The silver airflow spread out like smoke. Suddenly, the Phoenix girl felt suffocated. Her heartbeat quickened. The parting heaven sword was unsheathed without any hesitation. She didn't even have the chance to turn around. It transformed into a fiery red shadow and tried to resist the attack that was as heavy as a mountain. Feng Su roared at the same time. "How dare you!" A few explosions sounded in the arena. Lan Yu stood in the middle of the arena, facing the two Feng people elders. His chest heaved and his breathing became uneven. Yu Ruyan had already come to Nian Bing's side and felt his pulse. Feng Nu's blood was in turmoil. He was brought back to Elder Feng Su's side. Both Elder Feng Su and Elder Feng Kong's expressions changed. They were shocked. Elder Feng Kong frowned. "Little Yen, we haven't seen each other for more than 10 years. You've become quite strong. Little Yen." Yu Ruyan ignored Elder Feng Kong. Seeing that Nian Bing was fine, she instructed Lan Sun and the other two. "Protect Nian Bing. Remember the Duke's words. Don't interfere." With that, she flashed back to her husband's side. "It has indeed been more than 10 years. If our daughters were still alive, they would be almost 19 years old now." Hearing Yu Ruyan's words, Lan Yu's eyes were filled with killing intent. The two Feng people elders couldn't help but be shocked by the bloody killing intent that had been honed on the battlefield. Feng Su said coldly, "It's a pity that she's already dead. Little Yen, you hid for many years and even had a child. Although you're the daughter of the previous head elder, the rules of the Feng people are not to be violated. Today we're here to solve this problem. As long as you kill the man beside you and hand over your other daughter, not only can I allow you to return to the Feng people, I can also appoint you as an elder of the Feng people. You should know how great of an honor this is." Yu Ruyan's eyes flashed coldly. "I do know. When I was young, it was my goal to become an elder of the Feng people. However, that's not important to me now. I only know that you're the enemies who killed my daughter. From the moment you cruelly killed my daughter, I no longer have anything to do with the Feng people. We're just enemies. On account of the fact that you raised me since I was young and taught me the skills of the phoenixes, I didn't seek revenge. I didn't expect you to come looking for trouble again. All right, since you want to settle it, I'll settle it together today. The four of you go ahead. Brother, you and I are enough to avenge our daughter." Yu Ruyan's slender white hand touched her waist and a silver light appeared like a spirit snake. It was a soft sword about 3 feet long. The body of the sword was silver. Yu Ruyan's wrist shook slightly and the soft sword became hard. The body of the sword emitted a silver light. It was a treasured sword. Lan Yu also moved. He also touched a soft sword, but his was blue. Compared to Yu Ruyan's silver sword, it was wider. The soft sword was straight and pointed at the two elders of the Feng people. "Do it. Don't worry. Ruyan and I won't win with numbers." Feng Su. Feng Kong and the elders' eyes flashed red. "Since that's the case, there's no need to talk." Feng Nu, Feng Xiang, 9 leaves soaring to the sky. Fiery red duki filled the air. Feng Nu and the girl around the same age exuded a scorching 9-leaf duki at the same time. The two girls shouted at the same time and their delicate bodies soared into the sky, leaving behind a trail of fire. At the same time, Feng Su and Feng Kong also pulled out the fiery red longswords from their back. Their duki instantly turned silver. They stepped forward at the same time and made a simple chopping motion. Although the distance of the sword wasn't large, the sword made an ear-piercing sound. Clearly, their duki had reached the limit. Chapter 75. Lan Sun and the other two stood in front of him, while Nian Bing leaned against the wall. At this moment, he had secretly opened his eyes and saw Yu Ruyan and Lan Yu emitting a silver light at the same time. In addition to the two Feng people elders, they were clearly 4 swordsman-level warriors. Nian Bing groaned in his heart. Why did he always encounter such experts? At this moment, his heart was filled with a thirst for power. The 4 swords clashed without any fancy move. Do Chi broke through the air and soared into the sky. In an instant, the difference in strength was obvious. Lan Yu was forced back a step by Elder Feng Su, while Elder Feng Kong was forced back 2 steps by Yu Ruyan. It was obvious that the strongest of the 4 was the only peerless beauty. At this moment, Feng Nu and the green-haired Feng Nu had already pounced forward. When Feng Nu's parting heaven godly sword was about to reach Lan Yu, it instantly emitted a silver light. Lan Yu was obviously shocked. He twisted his soft sword and clashed with Feng Nu's attack. Feng Nu flew up with the help of the recoil and landed to the side. However, Feng Xiang's situation wasn't so easy. She was facing the strongest, Yu Ruyan. Yu Ruyan's killing intent surged, and she didn't have any intention of holding back. She didn't even look at Feng Xiang. She raised her left hand and her silver dou qi condensed into the shape of a sword. When it collided with Feng Xiang's longsword, there was a metallic clang. Feng Xiang spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. If Elder Feng Kong hadn't distracted Yu Ruyan in time, she would have been severely injured. Lan Yu and Yu Ruyan didn't expect Feng Nu to be this strong. Although Lan Yu was able to send Feng Nu flying, he was also attacked by Elder Feng Su like a storm. Elder Feng Su let out a phoenix cry and attacked Lan Yu, who had just sent Feng Nu flying with his red longsword. The sound of clashing dou qi and the sound of metal clashing could be heard continuously. Lan Yu grunted and took a few steps back. The front of his shirt was torn and there were traces of blood. His face was already a bit pale. Feng Su was about to continue his attack when a silver light suddenly appeared in front of him. Yu Ruyan's power was unleashed. With a circle of her soft sword, she actually trapped both Elder Feng Kong and Elder Feng Su in her dou qi. Clashing sounds could be heard continuously. Facing two elders at the same time, Yu Ruyan didn't retreat at all. The situation was evenly matched. Not only did her strength surprise the two elders, even Nian Bing couldn't help but open his mouth in shock. He didn't expect the auntie he called mother to be this strong. One swordsman wasn't at a disadvantage against two swordsmen. Yu Ruyan's strength couldn't be described as strong. Rank didn't mean everything. Even people of the same rank could be divided into strong and weak. A thunderous roar suddenly rang out. Lan Yu, who had been injured earlier, suddenly changed. The warrior attire on his upper body was torn apart, revealing his firm muscles. The sword wound on his chest was clearly visible, but at this moment, his body was shining with a strange blue light. That bone-deep wound was healing at a rapid pace. Furthermore, Lan Yu's body was constantly expanding. His muscles were like granite. His eyes had turned completely blue, and his short hair was standing on end. His body was twice as big as before. Even his height had increased by a few centimeters. His handsome face was filled with a murderous aura, and his iron-like aura was constantly revolving around his body. "It's the body of the Thunder Dragon," Lan Sun whispered. Nian Bing stood up and whispered, "What's the body of the Thunder Dragon?" Lan Sun looked at Nian Bing, who had regained consciousness, in shock. However, he still explained, "Among the ancient dragons, there is no such thing as a Thunder Dragon. The Duke's Thunder Dragon body is actually a form of Berserk. It can also be said that it is an advanced form of Berserk. By stimulating the changes in the body, coupled with the changes in the combat aura and bloodline, the Duke's defense and body's recovery ability will increase by several times. His attacks will also become more ferocious. Although he will be weakened for a period of time afterwards, this is the strongest physique of a human warrior. The reason it's called the body of the Thunder Dragon is because of the powerful defense after the transformation. His muscles show the effects of dragon scales. The Duke's dou qi is of the rare thunder attribute, so it's called the body of the Thunder Dragon. The biggest advantage of Berserk is his consciousness. There are very few normal Berserk warriors, and they can only maintain a certain level of consciousness after Berserk. It's very difficult for them to distinguish friend from foe. However, the Duke's body of the Thunder Dragon can maintain his consciousness. Its strength is beyond my comprehension." While Lan Sun was explaining, Lan Yu had already made his move. Although his dou qi had turned blue from swordsman's Saint dou qi, its power had multiplied. He abandoned his flexible sword and used his fists as his weapon. Every punch was like a thunderclap. 2 punches in a row forced Elder Feng Su and Elder Feng Kong back. Feng Su coldly said, "Good." Your body of the Thunder Dragon has entered a complete state. No wonder you're so famous in the Ottoman Empire. However, the real battle has only just begun. A loud phoenix cry came out of Feng Su's mouth. Then, Feng Kong, Feng Nu, and Feng Xiang all let out the same cry. 4 phoenix cries intertwined with each other and soared into the sky. The first to change was Feng Xiang. She raised both her hands to her sides, as if flapping wings. Red Do Qi instantly expanded, and even the long sword in her hand turned golden red. Her burning red eyes were emotionless. In a flash, she appeared beside Lan Yu and Yu Rian. A trace of surprise appeared in Yu Rian's eyes. You're only in your 20s, but you've already reached the first transformation of the Phoenix transformation. What a promising girl. Unfortunately, you're my enemy. When I was your age, I could only use Phoenix flames more easily than you. It seems you're this generation's Phoenix of hope for the Feng people. Feng Su sneered. Lil Yen, you're wrong. Feng Xiang is only the protector of this generation's Phoenix of hope. The real Phoenix of hope is Feng Nu. As soon as he finished speaking, the pair of giant red wings that had left a deep impression on Yen Bing appeared, along with Feng Nu, Feng Su, and Feng Kong's golden eyes. The giant wings brought with them a scorching hot air. The powerful aura caused Yu Rian to take a step back and stand beside her husband. Royal wings. Yu Rian's eyes met with Feng Nu's golden eyes. Astonishment appeared in her eyes. You're this generation's Phoenix of hope for the Feng people. How old are you this year? Feng Nu said coldly, I'm 19 this year. Traitor, die. With a flash of red light, the parting heaven godly sword emitted a fiery light. The Phoenix woman's body transformed into a red cloud as she spread her wings. At this moment, she really looked like a fiery phoenix as she charged towards Yu Rian. Yen Bing couldn't help but be shocked. He had seen Feng Nu use royal wings before. At that time, Feng Nu had told him that she would need to rest for a long time to recover her strength. But now, it seemed that not only had she recovered, she could even use the second transformation of the Phoenix transformation. Her attack and defense had both increased. What was going on? Yu Rian coldly snorted. Her figure was like a ghost as she took a step forward, leaving behind an afterimage. The flexible sword in her hand soared into the sky. She directly struck parting heaven godly sword in Feng Nu's hand. With a pu sound, Feng Nu flew back and was caught by Feng Xiang. Yu Rian's expression didn't change as she looked at the 4 enemies from the Feng people. The royal wings aren't enough to threaten me. Little girl, we're originally from the same clan. Do you really think that the clan's rules are correct? We're originally humans. Why can't we love humans? Feng Nu stabilized the churning blood in her body. When they fought before, she deeply felt Yu Rian's ocean-like Do Qi. Even with the help of the royal wings and phoenix flames, she still couldn't break through Yu Rian's defense. Hearing her words, Feng Nu couldn't help but steal a glance at Yen Bing. Seeing him stand up again, she couldn't help but panic. Feng Su and Feng Kong roared at the same time. The royal wings on their backs instantly expanded and the 2 of them flew up at the same time. The golden red flames on their bodies rapidly burned, and their silver-white hair had already turned a fiery red. Their golden eyes shone brightly as they shouted at the same time, Phoenix, illusion, demon, body. Their originally corporeal bodies became illusory as if they had merged with the flames. A scorching current swept out, and the monstrous flames gathered in the air to form a fiery tornado that directly attacked Yu Rian and Lan Yu. Just like her name, Yu Rian's body turned into a wisp of smoke. The soft sword in her hand trembled slightly. Lan Yu roared and punched out with both fists. 2 streaks of azure light roared as they attacked the fiery tornado. The fiery tornado was greatly weakened amidst the thunderous rumbles. Just as it was about to reach Lan Yu, the silhouette blocked it like a breeze. Silver light instantly exploded, and the soft sword in Yu Rian's hand blossomed like a flower. Every strike produced a powerful explosion. The red and silver light instantly dazzled Nian Bing and the others who were watching the battle. With a loud boom, cracks appeared on the ground with the battle as the center. The four of them separated. Yuruyan's voluptuous chest heaved up and down, and her clothes were a bit messy. Lan Yu supported her arm and barely managed to steady herself. Feng Su and Feng Kong were also forced back. They stood in a row with Feng Xiang, who was burning with phoenix flames, and Feng Nu, who was spreading her royal wings. Yuruyan snorted in disdain. Still no improvement. Although the two elders have cultivated for many years, their talents are limited. I'm afraid they can only reach the illusion demon body of the phoenix. Feng Su snorted coldly. Then what about you? If you don't use your phoenix transformation, you have no chance at all. Lil Yen, I'll give you one last chance. Kill the man beside you and come back with us. Yuruyan coldly snorted, that's impossible. Brother Yu is the person I love the most. If I could return with you all, I wouldn't have left with Brother Yu back then. Ever since you all killed my daughter, I no longer admit that I'm a member of the Phoenix clan. Seeing that you all raised me up, I've always tolerated it. But since you all insist on killing me, don't blame me for being impolite. I'll let you all see what the true Phoenix transformation is like. Without talent, without good comprehension, even if you all cultivated for twice as long as me, it's impossible for you to defeat me. As soon as she finished speaking, the silver light around her began to fluctuate like flames. Just like Feng Su and the others, the silver light flickered and turned into a golden red. This was the unique phoenix flame of the Feng people. A pair of giant wings broke out of her clothes and spread to both sides. In the blink of an eye, Yuruyan had completed her second transformation. Her speed was so fast that the two Feng people elders couldn't help but change their expressions. Brother Yu, this is between me and the Feng people. Please don't interfere. Yuruyan's voice was cold, but full of confidence. Lan Yu glanced at her with a complicated look in her eyes. However, her figure still flashed as she appeared in front of Nian Bing and the others and escaped from the battle. Feng Su was stunned. Lil Yen, you want to fight 1 against 4? Yuruyan said proudly. What's wrong with that? Even if the 4 of you come at me together, you won't be my match. Flapping her wings lightly, her body floated up into the air. Her body swayed left and right as her illusory form appeared. It was the third transformation of the Phoenix clan, the illusory Phoenix demon body. Back then, when I left the Phoenix clan, I had only completed the second transformation of the Phoenix clan and possessed the royal feathers. At that time, I was far from being your opponent. Therefore, Brother Yu and I could only flee. Even after we had a daughter, we didn't dare to keep her by our side for fear of repeating the same mistake. But now, it's different. Not only do I have the ability to protect my daughter, I also have the ability to destroy you. Elders, if I remember correctly, the most outstanding person in our clan had once cultivated the 5th transformation of the Phoenix clan. However, after hundreds of years, the royal members of the Phoenix clan had only managed to complete the 3rd transformation. Raising her head, Yuruyan let out a long roar. Golden flames instantly engulfed a radius of 10 meters and soared into the sky. Under the red light, the clouds in the sky were completely dyed red. The edges of the red wings on her back shone with a faint golden light. Strangely, the flames didn't seem to be scorching hot at all. Only Feng Su and Feng Kong knew that this was because the flames were extremely condensed. There was no leakage of energy at all. Phoenix, Shadow, 3, Fun, with a flash of red light, 3 silhouettes appeared in the golden red sea of flames. 3 completely identical illusory jade-like smoke, with the same fiery red wings and the same golden eyes. The Phoenix Maiden knew that the 3rd transformation, the illusory Phoenix demonic body, was a preparation for the 4th transformation, the Phoenix Shadow 3 Fissures. The 3 phantoms had the same powerful attack power. Going from the 3rd transformation to the 4th transformation was also a qualitative leap in the strength of the Phoenix clan. Feng Kong's voice trembled as he said, "The fourth transformation, it really is the fourth transformation. Little Yen, you're indeed the most outstanding talent of the Feng people. Give up everything you have in the human world. I'll ask Big Brother for mercy for you. As long as you're willing to come back with us, we won't kill your husband and daughter." The three Urians spoke at the same time. "Elder Kong, you've always been the one who cared about me the most. You're also the most benevolent person in the clan. Thank you for your kindness, but I've said it before. Brother Yu is the person I love the most, and I'll never leave him." "You don't understand," Feng Su said coldly. "Brother Kong, why waste words with her? So what if it's the fourth transformation? She might not even be able to use a third of the Phoenix Shadow's power. Although we can't reach the fourth transformation, the 9 abandonment Do Chi we've cultivated for many years isn't something she can compare to. Once we use the illusory Phoenix demon body, her previous techniques will be useless. If we attack together, we'll definitely be able to destroy her." Urian coldly snorted. "Is that what you think? If the fourth transformation doesn't work, then what about the fifth transformation?" The golden red flames instantly retracted, and the golden red light slowly moved. The true color of a phoenix isn't red or gold. According to the legends, our ancestors had the head of a chicken, the neck of a snake, the chin of a swallow, the back of a turtle, the tail of a fish, and the feathers of a rainbow. 8 years ago, I finally broke through the fourth transformation and reached the fifth transformation. I'm afraid none of you could have imagined this. The first thing that changed was the wings on the backs of the 3 Yu-Yans. The original golden red light started to show 5 colored ripples, although it was still golden red as the foundation. However, the 5 colored wings looked much more beautiful. Urian flicked her wrist, and her silver sword was thrown to the side. The 3 bodies reached out their right hands at the same time, and 5 colored flames condensed in their hand. The 5 colored light condensed into a feather-like object about a meter long. The 3 bodies and 6 wings flapped at the same time, and an impassioned voice resounded through the earth. Fifth transformation. Phoenix, Phoenix, wing, 5 colors, move. The hearts of Feng Su and the other 3 trembled at the same time. Feng Nu stared at the traitorous elder in front of her with wide eyes. Within the Phoenix clan, she was the youngest to have attained the royal winged transformation. However, she didn't have the slightest bit of confidence that she would be able to attain the 5th transformation of the Phoenix transformation at Urian's age. That dazzling 5-colored radiance, that abnormally powerful aura caused her to feel suffocated. Urian moved, and the 3 figures charged at the 4 people in front of her at the same time. The phoenix feather in her hand flashed as if it was flying through the 9 heavens. The solid 5-colored light swept towards the powerful enemies in front of her. At this critical moment, the 2 Feng people elders, Feng Su and Feng Kong, displayed their many years of cultivation. Although they were only at the 3rd transformation, when their Duki completely erupted, they weren't weak at all. However, she was not weak at all. She barely blocked the 2 Yu-Yan's attacks while the other Yu-Yan forced Phoenix Lady and Phoenix Xiang to retreat. For a moment, the 8 figures were locked in a fierce battle. It was impossible to tell who was who. The surging aura was completely suppressed in this small space. The golden red light and the 5-colored light intertwined and collided repeatedly, causing the ground to tremble. In the arena, the one with the most complicated feelings wasn't Lan Yu, but rather Nian Bing. Both sides of the battle had people he cared about the most. He was afraid that Feng Nu would hurt Feng Nu, but he was also afraid that Feng Nu and the others would hurt his aunt, who was like a mother to him. He subconsciously took a step forward. He muttered an incantation. A large hand appeared on Nian Bing's shoulder. "I know you care about Ru Yen, but don't interfere. This is a grudge between Ru Yen and her people. I believe that Ru Yen has the strength to defeat them." Although the one holding Nian Bing down was Lan Yu, and he was in the state of a berserk, he still revealed a faint smile on his face. But backslash 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 no buts. Ru Yen is the most outstanding genius among the Feng people. At the same time, she is also the #1 expert in our Ottoman Empire. After the Feng people used the Phoenix transformation, even if I went up, I might not be able to help Ru Yen much. Just watch, I believe in Ru Yan's strength. Although Lan Yu said this, Nian Bing noticed that his firm hands had already clenched into fists. Should he really just watch and wait until the victor was decided? No matter which side was hurt, Nian Bing didn't want to see it. His eyes lit up, and he retreated to the side of the courtyard wall. Suddenly, he shouted, "Galamans, stop watching the show, come out and help me." Lan Yu and the others looked at Nian Bing in astonishment, not understanding what he was doing. Nian Bing didn't have any intention of stopping, and continued to shout, "Galamans, stop hiding, I know you are here. Look, they've cracked the ground, and the stove over there is about to break. If you don't come out and help, I won't have a place to cook. Don't you want to eat the food I made with all my heart?" The 8 figures in the battle were all focused on their enemies, and no one paid attention to Nian Bing. Although Lan Yu, Lan Sun, and Ru Yi saw him shouting, none of them understood the meaning behind his words. At this time, a change occurred. A lazy voice came from all directions. "It's not just 1 meal, it's 3 meals. You have to remember that, Nian Bing brat." A red figure appeared like a ghost, and like a needle or a breeze, it rushed into the battle circle that even Lan Yu wasn't sure if he could break through. Violent bangs sounded one after another, and the 8 figures separated one by one after the red figure appeared. Everything was calm again. In the center of the previous battle, Galamans, dressed in red, floated with an evil smile on his face. He looked at the people around him. Yu Ruyan's 3 figures had merged back into one. Her face was very pale, and only half of the phoenix feather was left in her hand. On the other side, Feng Nu, Feng Xiang, Feng Su, and Feng Kong all had blood flowing from the corners of their mouth. Obviously, they were at a disadvantage in the battle just now. Garaman's eyes finally landed on Yu Ruyan. "Little girl, that strike of yours hurt me so much. Tell me, how are you going to compensate me? Oh right. And the rest of you, each more ruthless than the last. Do you want to break my bones?" Whether it was Yu Ruyan, Phoenix Maiden, or the others, their eyes were filled with astonishment. Only they, who were directly involved, understood what had just happened. In the fierce battle, they had already set up powerful duki around their bodies. When the 5 top masters of the Feng people were fighting with all their strength, even a god-tier master would have a hard time interfering. However, this red-clothed young man in front of them easily rushed into their battle circle. From the moment he appeared, his hands were crossed in front of his chest, and he didn't attack at all. What he did was to use his body to block all the attacks from Yu Ruyan and the others. Yu Ruyan and the others clearly felt that they weren't attacking a human body at all, but a solid mountain. However, even if it was a real mountain, it would probably turn into powder under their attacks. However, this person was fine. Not only was he fine, but he was also floating there and making sarcastic remarks. Lan Yu sucked in a cold breath. God-tier master. In his imagination, other than a god-tier master, no one could do what he just did. Galamans snorted and said, "What is a god-tier master? I don't care about this title." Yu Ruyan said coldly, "This is our business. What right do you have to interfere?" Galamans smiled. "I didn't interfere," he said. "I didn't interfere, I just stepped in. You little lousy birds' descendants seem to be stronger than the previous generations, especially you. You could have killed him long ago, but you hid your 6th transformation and didn't use it. Even if you don't use it, I remember that the little lousy birds' 5-colored feathers have a move called the 5-colored sky soar. Isn't it easy to kill them? But the 6th transformation is your limit. Unless you have a miracle, you will never be able to reach the 7th transformation. It doesn't matter if you fight, go outside and fight. don't destroy the stove. Nianbing, don't forget that you have to cook 3 meals for me wholeheartedly. But, how did you know I followed you out? With your cultivation, there's no way you could have discovered me. Yurian was shocked that this unfathomable youth could see through her. Feng Su and the others were even more shocked. They knew the 6th transformation of the Phoenix transformation. Not only did it mean that Yurian had reached the half-Phoenix body, but it also meant that her strength was infinitely close to the God-tier Master Realm. As long as she broke through to the 7th transformation, she would be a true gentleman. It seemed that she had been holding back before. Otherwise, if she used the 6th transformation, they wouldn't have been able to block it. Nianbing walked out with a smile. Galamans, don't worry. I will do what I promised you. As for how I discovered you, it's too simple. Although I'm not strong enough to sense your presence, how could I not hear you swallowing your saliva so loudly when I was arranging the spices? I'm not deaf. And you, let's not fight anymore. Since you don't want to kill them, let them go. Garamantis was stunned for a moment, and his face turned red. He said to himself, is it really that loud? Yurian forced herself to calm down and smiled. Nianbing, you're worried about your little girlfriend, aren't you? As she spoke, she deliberately glanced at Feng Nu. Feng Nu blushed and lowered her head. Feng Su was furious. With a flick of his wrist, the long sword in his hand flashed and arrived at Nianbing's chest. Fuck, whoever dares to kill him is going against my stomach. That high-quality long sword somehow fell into Galaman's hands. At this time, Yurian stood in front of Nianbing. Galamans fiddled with the long sword in his hand. With a casual wave, the long sword turned into molten iron and flowed to the ground. He looked coldly at Feng Su and the others. Let me tell you, although Nianbing isn't a strong person, he is my chef. He is under my protection. Whoever dares to touch him is going against my stomach. Whoever dares to touch my stomach is my greatest enemy. You have already attacked me. Don't blame me for not warning you. With your little strength, I can turn you into ashes with a raise of my hand. Feng Nu suddenly exclaimed, You are that dragon. How is this possible? How did you turn into a human? From the moment Galamantes appeared, she felt that his voice was very familiar. In addition, Nianbing called out Galamantes' name and the tone of Galamantes' voice. She finally confirmed that the red-robed man in front of her was the fire dragon in the cave. Only he could block their previous attack with his body. This could explain why Nianbing was here. Dragon! Everyone exclaimed at the same time. Galamans said proudly, That's right. I am the great fire dragon King Galamans. Alright, you little lousy birds can scram now. Nianbing cooked. I have slept for 2 days. I am very hungry. Feng Su looked at Galamans with uncertainty. He immediately determined that this was not a good place to stay. Even without this dragon, Yurian was not someone they could deal with. Let's go. He took the lead and walked out. Feng Kong, Feng Xiang, and Feng Nu quickly followed behind him. Yurian did not stop them. She frowned as she watched them leave. Nianbing wanted to stop Feng Nu, but when he thought of their conversation and Feng Su's attitude towards him, he held himself back. He did not want to cause trouble for Feng Nu. All right. Let's go. Since I am your chef, I will help you clean up. Yellow light rose around Garamandes's body, and circles of yellow halos continued to merge into the earth. In the flickering light, the huge cracks from before slowly closed under the effect of the yellow light, and the earth returned to its original state in the shaking. Blue Feather exclaimed in a low voice, Earth magic. Galamans clapped his hands and walked to a chair beside the table as if nothing had happened. He patted his stomach and said, I'm so hungry. Nianbing, hurry up. Yurian did not understand what was going on, but since Galamans admitted that he was a dragon, she could not be careless. As a member of the Feng people, she knew how powerful the dragons in Yangon were. Nianbing nodded and smiled. This senior dragon likes your cooking so much. And he wants to try it too. Nian Bing, I will have to trouble you.